the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Capturing Bei Yang. Thanks to Ao Xiang for the 5,000 book coins. Thanks to Ling Xiaoyao for the 3,000 book coins / Wogana for the 1,000 book coins / Emoshi for the 588 book coins / Zhen King for the 588 book coins / Tizu Denggui / Imayu. Thank you. Xiao Bei moved with a whoosh and almost threw Qiu out. Fortunately, Tang Mao was quick-witted and grabbed her little arm to prevent her from falling. Holding Tang Yu and looking at Qiu sitting on the left, Tang Mao said helplessly, "Didn't I tell you to hold on?" Fortunately, I was watching. Qiu was embarrassed for a while, but still pouted and said, "It's all your fault for being so dog abusing. Don't you know that I'm still single?" Tang Yu was also a little embarrassed, although she looked like a 110 vixen that was just on the surface. Similarly, some women may really be like this by nature, while some women are just pretending. Looking at Qiu who was complaining, she glared at Tang Mao behind her. However, she felt particularly warm in her heart at this moment. After all, Tang Mao came over pass after receiving the news that she was not going back after tracking the Black Church. If Tang Mao had not come this time, Tang Yu was sure that they would be in trouble. After running for a while, there were no more demons nearby, so Tang Mao asked curiously, "How did you get surrounded, and how did you know that the other party was from the Black Church?" "Originally, we were chasing Seren to no avail, so we were going to leave. We were the last group to evacuate, but just when we were about to leave, an instructor named Bei Yang secretly told us that he had noticed the presence of the blue clothes of the Black Church. Although it's not Seren, the status of a blue clothes in the Black Church is not low, and although the other party is at the 3rd level of the intermediate level, the situation is urgent, and we are still confident that we can take him down, so we went to chase him. But I didn't expect that this was actually a trap." The moment Tang Yu finished speaking, Tang Mao was furious. He didn't expect that the one who pitted Tang Yu and others was actually this damn dog thing. However, Tang Mao was puzzled at the same time. Why would the other party come to target Tang Yu? In the original book, Tang Yu should have left a few days before the demons attacked. However, fortunately, nothing happened to people, which was enough. There will always be many things in this world that you can't figure out. If everything must have an ending, then I'm afraid that this life may not be stable. In addition, there are groups of demons in front of him, although many have been killed along the way. However, this is only 1% of the demons in the city. Tang Yu was silent at this time. He didn't have time to think about it just now. But now, Tang Yu suddenly felt that Bei Yang was very problematic, and maybe he was also a member of the Black Church. Under the leadership of Xiao Bei, after a frantic run to clear the obstacles, he finally saw the barrier light curtain that was as high as the city wall not far away. Tang Mao breathed a sigh of relief. He had consumed a lot along the way. The thunder magic energy and summoning magic energy have been completely exhausted. Xiao Bei has also returned to its own world. The ice magic and space magic were also running low. However, he didn't get nothing from the demons he killed along the way. For example, a warrior level spirit and 2 slave level spirits were his best gains. For Tang Mao, who was short of money, if he sold these spirits, he would be worth over 100 million. At the same time, the condensation of some residual spirits was also a great harvest. After the fusion of these residual spirits, the elementary magic of the thunder system should be strengthened. When the 3 of them were still a few hundred meters away from reaching the safety barrier, they saw several students in front of them staying there, and a man riding a wolf seemed to be saying something. "It's him, Tang Mao. Catch him. He is very likely a member of the Black Church," Tang Yu said hurriedly, after seeing the person standing there. In fact, Tang Mao had already guessed the other party's identity when he saw the students and him there. "Okay." After responding, Tang Mao walked towards there. Tang Yu and Qiu also recovered a little and followed at a fast speed. "Then you can die." Bei Yang said in a cold voice. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally extremely docile ghost wolf suddenly took a big step towards Emofan and raised its sharp claws high and actually slapped Emofan in the face. The change shocked everyone and they were stunned. Exclamation mark. 0 degree. Ice vines. Freeze. Just when the claws were about to slap Emofan, Tang Mao happened to appear next to him. Then, the ice magic froze the wolf in place. Telekinesis, virtual grasp. Then, a space magic grabbed Bei Yang in his hand. Bang, Bei Yang fell and was seriously injured, and then his hands were broken directly. At the same time, the frozen ghost wolf exploded with a crack. Emofan just took out the magic tool he got from Zinkong, but saw that the ghost wolf was already dead. And the black beasts that just appeared nearby also exploded and died one by one. Zhu Mushing, the head teacher of the top class, and Zhang Xiaohao and others have also come to Emofan. They are also confused at this time. Looking at Tang Mao who knocked out Bei Yang and killed the black beast, they are a little confused about who the other party is. Tang Mao looks about the same age as them, but he easily solved Bei Yang's powerful ghost wolf beast and several black beasts. Isn't this too strong? Even Emofan was stunned. In his opinion, he was already awesome and was also the best among his peers. But suddenly he seemed to find that this was not the case. Just after Tang Mao abused Bei Yang, Tang Yu and the others also rushed over. Don't kill him. Tang Yu saw Tang Mao's cruel methods and naturally understood that he was doing it because she almost died. I didn't plan to kill him, I just didn't want him to have the chance to commit suicide. After saying that, Tang Mao threw the disabled Bei Yang directly to the ground. Seeing Bei Yang, who had lost all his limbs and was seriously injured and dying, several people were scared. But fortunately, they knew Tang Yu. Because of this, they were not scared. After all, Tang Mao was a little cruel. Emofan looked at Tang Yu who came over and asked in confusion, "Teacher Tang Yu, who is this?" Emofan asked, and Tang Yu saw Tang Mao looking over. She was a little shy, but still said, "He is my boyfriend." Ah. Several students present exclaimed when they heard it. After all, Tang Yu was the goddess in their hearts. Although Zhu Mushin was also a little surprised, he still asked, "Teacher Tang Yu, what's going on?" Tang Yu said in a light voice, "This Bei Yang is a member of the Black Church." Bei Yang collapsed on the ground, looking at Tang Yu who was not dead, and said in shock, "No. Impossible. You. How are you still alive?" Hearing this, Tang Mao came to him. He stepped on his face and said, "Tell me, who instructed you to set a trap for her? Don't even think about getting a single bit of information from me." Tang Mao's eyes were cold, and he immediately pinched him through the air. "Tell me, I'll let you die quickly. If not, I'll make you regret coming to this world." The powerful ice domain instantly dispersed. The temperature instantly dropped below 0 degrees and was still rising. Tang Mao was really furious. He could ignore other things, but when it came to Tang Yu's safety, he naturally couldn't be careless. Hiss, it's so cold. Zhu Mushin and Emofan and several other students were all in this domain, and they were all shivering from the cold. Even Emofan and Zhao Minimum, 2 fire type people, couldn't summon fire here. And even Mu Bei, who was an ice type person, was also confused. The power of this ice type, even Mu Ningsu, whom he knew, was probably not comparable. Although Qiyu was an intermediate magician, she couldn't withstand the damage. Then he said, "Tang Yu, make him stop. Otherwise, whether Bei Yang dies or not, we will definitely die." Tang Mao saw that they were almost frozen, and without waiting for Tang Yu to stop him, he retracted the domain. Then he said, "It seems that you are very unwilling to cooperate with me." Bei Yang was about to die at this time, but he still had no intention of saying anything, and said coldly, "Don't expect me to tell you anything." Tang Mao turned around and said, "I don't think he will explain anything, and he is just a small fry, and he probably won't know anything. Kill him or keep him? Keep him." After Tang Yu finished speaking, Tang Mao threw him to the ground unhappily. Tang Yu glanced at Bei Yang on the ground, and then looked at several students and said, "You take him with you, and we will go to the safety barrier." The 2 fat men pressed Bei Yang, and Emofan came over and said, "Thank you, master." After all, Tang Yu helped him a lot, and Tang Mao was so powerful, wouldn't it be a fool not to hug his thigh? Tang Mao looked back at Emofan. His first impression was that he was not very handsome, except that he was plain looking. No need. It just happened. Emofan's mouth twitched slightly, thinking, this guy is more pretentious than me. Tang Mao's talent was not inferior to Emofan, and they were the same age. In this case, there was naturally nothing to chat about. However, in Emofan's opinion, this was normal. After all, he already knew who Tang Mao was. After the battle at Mingsu Academy, Tang Mao's reputation had spread a long time ago. Even after they were safe, Tang Mao realized that the various invitations on his mobile phone alone were not a small number. After several people entered a safety barrier, Emofan went to see Zun Kang. As for Tang Mao, Tang Yu and Qiu, they came to a room and began to recover their magic power. As for Bei Yang, because he was wanted by the Inquisition, he was under strict control by the military. Tang Mao was actually thinking about whether to arrest Muhi, the undercover. However, although he knew that the other party was from the Black Church, it was difficult to arrest him without evidence. The most important thing was that he did not want to deeply provoke the Black Church now, although he could get a lot of rewards this time. But these rewards were far from enough to sprint to the advanced level, so before the advanced level, he thought it was better to keep a low profile. After the advanced level, that would be another matter. Otherwise, based on his talent, would the people of the Black Church allow him to exist so terribly? Maybe they would try every means to destroy him at all costs. Of course, it might not happen, but he was not prepared to gamble with his life, so after thinking about it, Tang Mao gave up. After all, the most important thing for the Black Church now is the Earth Holy Spring and the crazy Conferred God Conference. During this period, he only needs to practice in hiding. P.S. After signing the contract, the most important thing is to get a recommendation position. And to get a recommendation position, you need to read it. So all the friends who like this book, please don't raise it during this period. In addition, friends who have the conditions, please ask for a monthly ticket and a reward. The reward will increase by 2 centimeters. The monthly ticket will increase by 1 centimeter. I'm not short, and I'm very powerful. 60,000 words in 7 days. Finally, I mainly read it on Kidian.com. If you have any good suggestions, you can join the group. After all, I'm also confused sometimes. I need help from people who like this book. Chapter 27 The Disaster Ends. Kada. Just when Tang Mao was resting to recover his magic power, Tang Yu pushed the door and walked in. Hearing the voice, Tang Mao asked without turning his head, why don't you recover in the room, but come to my place? Tang Yu asked in confusion, how do you know it's me? Tang Mao was very upset, thinking, except for you, there should be no one else who entered my room without knocking. We are in tune with each other. Tang Yu smiled. She was not an impolite person. It's just that the two of them were almost always together, and knocking on the door was subconsciously ignored. After sitting on the bed, Tang Yu said, forget that, this is not home. Tang Mao turned around and looked at Tang Yu. Looking at Tang Yu's very delicate and standard oval face, bright and electric eyes, tall and sexy nose, charming red mouth, and fair and rosy skin. When he thought about what would happen if he came late, or if Tang Yu didn't tell him about this, he felt a little scared. He reached out and pulled her into his arms, hugged her tightly, and whispered, whatever you do in the future, you must tell me. Tang Yu nodded and replied, I know. This time, they were indeed careless. Tang Mao smelled Tang Yu's body fragrance and felt the softness and smoothness of her body. It was originally a worried action, but when he hugged her, he felt a different feeling. Tang Yu also noticed something was wrong, but surprisingly, she did not mean to stop Tang Mao. With Tang Yu's tacit consent, Tang Mao took Tang Yu to lie down, but just when the two were about to take a step forward, a knock on the door came in. Hearing the sound, Tang Mao turned around with an unhappy face and said, no one is here. Tang Mao, is Tang Yu here? There is an urgent matter at the trial council. Qiu outside directly ignored his response and asked anxiously. Hearing this, Tang Yu pushed Tang Mao's head away and said lightly, I can't run away. Don't make trouble if there is an emergency. 3 minutes had passed since Tang Yu ran out. Kiwai looked at Tangayu coming out and said helplessly, "Sister Yu, the chief judge asked us to take Baiyang back as soon as possible. The people he sent to pick us up have arrived, and the chief judge already knows that we were ambushed. This is business." Tangayu nodded and said, "Okay, let's go." That, Sister Yu. Kiwai hesitated, but it was not good for the two of them to leave like this, so she pointed to the button on her chest and gestured. Tangayu looked at Kiwai's gesture and was stunned. Then she blushed and said, "Wait for me," and ran back to the room. Seeing Tangayu coming back, Tangmayo walked up and stretched out his hand to ask, "Are you okay?" Tangayu slapped Tangmayo's claws and rolled her eyes at him. Then she said, "I have a mission and need to leave first. Do you want to go back with us?" Tangmayo thought for a while and said, "You go back first. Since you are here, just think of it as a training here. He is so short of money now. After waiting for the arrival of the military magician army, going into the city to kill demons and eliminate monsters will be a huge income." Tangmayo naturally didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. As for the danger, the rain had stopped and the holy spring was in Emofan's hands. The military should be able to arrive tomorrow. The Black Church would definitely not have time to trouble him at this time. Tang Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, "Well, you have to be careful." She originally wanted to ask why Tangmayo's thunder and ice powers were so powerful. However, it seems that there is no chance now. After saying that, Tang Yu left here. This night was spent quietly because it was mist. At dawn, the clouds were just pushed away by the rising sun, and a ray of clean sunlight fell on the mountains, rivers, and cities. In one night, Tangmayo's magic power had already been restored to perfection. After that, he was in meditation until he heard someone cheering. Tangmayo walked out of the door, looked into the distance, and saw a large group of snow-white sky eagles appearing in the direction of the sun. A large group of sky eagles, which means that there is a mid-level magician on each sky eagle. After seeing the arrival of the team leading the dungeon, Tangmayo followed directly. The purpose of the Sky Eagle Mage group is very simple, which is to hunt down the general level monsters wandering in the city. Tangmayo's purpose is also very simple. He just follows the big account to brush the dungeon. Of course, he will also help with some of the occasional general level monsters. After seeing Tangmayo's violent output, the military mages didn't say anything. The entrances of the monsters were destroyed one after another, and there were fewer monsters in Bo City when they were killed, and the whole city entered the mopping up phase. After 3 days, all of Tangmayo's primary skills were strengthened to level 4. Among them, the general level soul essence plus the previous ones, a total of 5 soul essences and 15 servant level soul essences were obtained. If these are sold, the income is almost more than 200 million. After the 4th day, his harvest decreased. Of course, many demons died, but he couldn't search the whole city for the demons that had just died. However, Tangmayo still followed the army to sweep. This sweep lasted for a whole week, including the sewers, which were cleaned up several times. After hunting again and again, Bo City finally calmed down again. However, Bo City has changed beyond recognition. However, he is not a local. After dealing with a lot of demons, Tangmayo left here. Before leaving, Emo-fan came to Tangmayo once to ask about Tang Yu's whereabouts. It seemed that he wanted to express his gratitude for the star map book that Tang Yu gave him. After Tangmayo accepted it on his behalf, he chatted with him casually and left. I have to admit that Emo-fan is Emo-fan. He is not as thick-skinned as Tangmayo. When leaving, the chief of the military magician also invited Tangmayo to join. After all, a mid-level magician has the power of skills comparable to high-level ones. Naturally, he is a hot commodity, but Tangmayo refused without thinking. He needs totem to upgrade. Although the upgrade speed is very fast now, the situation will be different after reaching the higher level. After returning to Mingsu school, Tangmayo rested for a day and found a market to sell all the spirits he had obtained before, earning nearly 200 million yuan. Beep beep beep. Looking at the 9 digits in front of the decimal point in the bank card, Tangmayo felt relieved. Tangmayo lost interest in hunting magicians. That's just a few dollars. With strength, hunting monsters is the truth. It can benefit mankind and make money. Just when Tangmayo was thinking, Tang Yu's delicate voice came over. Hello. After the call was connected, Tang Mao said, I'm back to the college. Where are you? You just came back? Tang Yu paused. When she heard it, she remembered that the military magician arrived the next day. Traffic should have been restored by now. If she hadn't been dealing with things these days, she should have asked Tang Mao a long time ago. Well, I killed demons and eliminated evil in Bo City. After Tang Mao talked about what happened in the past few days, Tang Yu scolded him. Tang Yu said in a bad tone, I will come to you after I finish dealing with the things in the past few days. Tang Mao had no choice but to nod his head and agreed. He originally wanted to take credit, but he didn't expect this to happen. However, knowing that Tang Yu was concerned, he could only listen obediently. Chapter 28 Tang Yu attacks. The school has entered the summer vacation now. Tang Mao was a little bored, but he finally transferred the money to Tang Yu. After Tang Yu received the income of 150 million, she was directly confused. There was another round of WeChat inquiries, and Tang Mao also explained, but after a while, there was still no response. Ding dong. Just when he was wondering, Tang Yu's message finally came. I'll be there in the evening. Seeing these 4 short words, Tang Mao was stunned. According to his understanding of Tang Yu, she should be gritting her teeth at this time. After all, she was able to put down the things at hand and come here. I guess her temper exploded, right? However, although there was a little panic, it was only a matter of a moment. Women, of course, can't be spoiled all the time. Men still have to have dignity. In the evening, Tang Mao, who had prepared everything, stood up hurriedly to open the door after hearing Tang Yu's footsteps. However, before he could open the door, Tang Yu had already opened the door and walked in. Tang Yu waved to open Tang Mao's hand, without even looking at him, and walked in beside him with her hips twisted. Tonight, Tang Yu was wearing a suspender-shaped patchwork dress. Her white neck curve, which was originally beautiful, was even more full of temptation. She had a straight front, a curved back, white legs, and a charming face. Gulp. Tang Mao swallowed his saliva and followed. Just when he wanted to finish the day's work with Tang Yu suddenly turned around and stretched out her hand to block Tang Mao with a serious face. Tang Yu hummed lightly, then sat on the sofa, her round and slender legs resting on the other leg, leaning lazily on the sofa, and then said, You let me leave first, so that I can fight with the demons? No, I followed the army to pick up leaks. Tang Mao did kill a lot of people, but this obviously can't be said. If I say it, it won't be exciting. Tang Mao. Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with a hint of anger and scolded. Do you think I'm a fool? Tang Mao shrugged and said timidly, well, I did take action. But there was a military magician, not me. Huh. Tang Yu frowned and stared at Tang Mao. I was wrong. At this time, admitting mistakes must be decisive. After all, Tang Mao was almost drooling. It's not his fault that he has no future. Tang Yu had always refused before. Finally, he was willing to give it to him, but he was disturbed by that girl. Now, of course, no matter whether it's right or wrong, business is important. Seeing Tang Mao admitting his mistakes so obediently, and seeing him getting closer and closer, Tang Yu didn't know what this guy was thinking. Her white and tender jade feet directly stepped on Tang Mao's shoulders. Then she stretched forward, looked at Tang Mao, and said in a delicate voice, Since you are not obedient, sister suddenly doesn't want you to sleep with me. She was originally very angry. After all, Tang Mao was too much of a worry for her. But she was helpless against Tang Mao, who was stubborn. Tang Mao was greedy. But after hearing what Tang Yu said, Tang Mao was stunned. Ah. Tang Mao said with a pitiful look, Wife, don't be like this. You also know that men are short of money. It's not easy for this jade to collect spirits. How can you let me abstain from 6 because of this matter? Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao's cheap look and couldn't help laughing. She was really convinced and immediately spread her hands and said, Then you come. Although she didn't understand what Tang Yu's sudden change was, Tang Mao, who was above, turned into a wolf. Although Tang Yu was used to being touched, she still couldn't stand it, but she still didn't respond or refuse. A complete scumbag style. After hesitating for 3 seconds, Tang Mao thought about the days in her heart. In addition to a word fuck, There was nothing else she wanted to say in her heart. 10 minutes later, Tang Yu changed into pajamas and sat next to Tang Mao. She chuckled and said, "I told you not to sleep with me tonight. You didn't listen." Tang Mao rolled her eyes, moved to Tang Yu's side, and said contemptuously, "Hey, woman." Tang Yu's oval face was flushed. She glared at Tang Mao and said, "Stop it, I want to ask you something." Tang Mao turned over and lay on her slender white thighs, then asked in confusion, "What is it?" Tang Yu lowered her head shyly and turned Tang Mao's head to face her. "You are making trouble. I'm angry. Pa." Hearing this, Tang Mao slapped the buttocks with a little emotion. "It's full of elasticity, and the unhappiness just now instantly made me feel much better." After being slapped suddenly, Tang Mao also used space magic. Although it didn't hurt much, it was shameful. "What are you doing?" Tang Mao smiled and said, "This is the family law. You should be punished for being naughty." Although Tang Yu was ashamed and angry, she didn't forget the business. Looking at Tang Mao, she said, "When did your magic power become so strong?" She still remembers it very clearly. Tang Mao only used a thunder magic to blast out, and the general level demons were killed instantly. Moreover, that was a second level magic. Although the ice magic was not that violent, it made her feel trembling and cold. She was still shocked until now. Tang Mao's ice magic was obviously not weaker than the thunder magic. Last time, she wanted to ask clearly, but she didn't have time. She was pushed away. Although she didn't do anything in the end, she was called away again. Until now, Tang Yu is still confused. And today, in addition to being afraid that Tang Mao would taste the sweetness and have no brains to fight demons, she came here. But it can be seen that Tang Mao is not a person who is ready to rely on this for a living. If you think about it carefully, it is true. The probability of exploding the spirit is not high. Although the residual soul can be fused, it cannot be taken out. After Tang Yu knew about it, she was not worried about it. What she was concerned about now was the problem of Tang Mao's magic power. My own purple sky divine thunder is 12 times more powerful than the ordinary thunder element. In the domain, as long as there is a thunder magic attack released by me, it will cover the thunder element within a kilometer of me for my use. Let my second thunder be twice as powerful. And as long as it is a thunder attack, no matter what kind it is, it will be downgraded to the power of ordinary thunder in my domain. With my own thunder antibody, the opponent's attack has no lethality to me. By the way, it seems that those thunder element can also condense into weapons of any form for me. The thunder was not so powerful at the beginning. It was only after he was promoted to the intermediate level that he reached this power. Tang Yu was shocked 12 times when he heard this. And this domain is so violent, and it is also the nemesis of the thunder system. Can it condense weapons? What about the ice system? Tang Mao looked at Tang Yu, who was shocked. He stretched out his hand and kneaded the ball again, then said, "The power of the ice system is not as strong as the thunder system. It is only 10 times. And the field, the ice element energy nearby can form a protection. I only need a thought to defend against all attacks. When my ice system just reached the intermediate level, I could defend against the attack of the intermediate third level of thunder magic." This. Tang Yu had completely ignored the claws that were making trouble and just stared at Tang Mao stupidly. After a moment, she didn't know how to describe Tang Mao. Chapter 29, Sacred Beast White Tiger. Thanks, book friend. Last number 8132 gave 1500 book coins. Thanks to Fengchen. Thanks to Wanshu. Thanks to the friends who voted for the monthly ticket. Don't touch it. It will be inconvenient to move if it gets bigger. After being shocked, Tang Yu rolled her eyes at Tang Mao. Hearing this, Tang Mao glanced at Tang Yu and whispered, "You are really born with a blessing, but don't know how to appreciate it. If you were at the airport, you would blame me every day." Although Tang Mao's voice was very low, he did not hide it at all, and Tang Yu still heard it clearly. Feeling the terrifying gaze of the queen, Tang Mao quickly stretched out his right hand, then stretched out his left hand and pointed, saying, "It's all this bastard's fault. I will teach it a lesson when I have time." Tang Yu said politely, then took out a bank card and said, "Keep this 150 million. With your qualifications, it won't take long to break through to the higher level. and this 150 million is just right for buying resources. Tang Mao shook his head and said, no, I have 1 year of training qualifications in the 3-step pagoda. Moreover, I went directly to the main campus. With the resources of the main campus and the opportunity of the 3-step pagoda, it is only a matter of time before I break through to the higher level. Only when your strength improves can I practice with confidence, otherwise I will be worried every time you do a mission. Although Tang Mao did not study it carefully when Tang Yu was tricked last time, if the guess is correct, it should have something to do with his exposure of his strength. It's just that he has a close relationship with Tang Yu, and the people in the village know it. They shouldn't say anything nonsense. After all, the black snakes all listen to Tang Mao's command. Who dares to seek this excitement? Suddenly, Tang Mao thought of something. That was the academy where he first enrolled. That was Principal ZHU of the Magic High School. Didn't he know the relationship between the two? Do you still remember the high school magic academy I first went to? Tang Mao turned over and asked. Tang Yu nodded, and then said, remember, isn't it the school I arranged for you to go to? Tang Mao asked again, are you familiar with Principal ZHU? I just met him once, when I was investigating the movements of the Black Church. I'm not too familiar with him. Tang Yu shook her head. Although she had impersonated various professions, it was her first time to be a teacher in a college in Bochum. Tang Mao looked unkind and said in a cold voice, the Black Church set a trap to lure you this time. If I'm not mistaken, it should be because of my talent that exposed the relationship. And the reason they want to arrest you should also be because of me. However, the people who know the relationship between you and me are almost all from our village. But they have been guarding the village all year round, and the only suspect at present is this principal. Listening to Tang Mao's speculation, Tang Yu suddenly felt something was wrong. Although the tribunal was created to capture the Black Church, it was not born to annihilate the Black Church. And the people of the Black Church generally would not take the initiative to provoke the tribunal. It has always been a game of cat and mouse. This is because, although the tribunal is capturing the Black Church in the country, it has never touched the fundamental interests of the other party. For example, the tribunal may not be able to catch a few blue-robed deacons in 3 to 5 years. But this time, they took the initiative to lure. And before that, Tang Mao had just exposed his amazing talent. Tang Yu thought for a while and understood. Then she said, the only outsider who knows about your relationship with me is Principal ZHU. Tang Mao stood up and said, if I'm not mistaken, this old man should be a member of the Black Church. Go and get him. Tang Yu hesitated and said, but, based on this, we have no reason to get him. Besides, Principal ZHU seems to be a high-level mage. After all, she is a member of the tribunal. Before doing anything, she still needs evidence. The reason why Tang Mao did not choose to join any forces, that she doesn't like this kind of trouble. However, the other party is a high-level mage. Even if he is, he may not be able to be taken down in the current situation. She had to say, then let your people investigate him. Is that okay? Of course, it was mainly because this was just an inference, and had not been implemented. Otherwise, Tang Mao will go home, and get the snake for him to turn into ashes in a few minutes. Tang Yu nodded. It can be seen that it is not easy. After all, members of the Black Church are normal people, before they are exposed. Not to mention a high school principal, even some big forces are mixed with a lot of Black Church forces. Saren may not be very strong, but when it comes to playing tricks, he is no worse than those who fight for power. You have to be careful these days. If there is anything, call me immediately. In addition, you use these resources to practice. When the third system awakens, it is best to guide the awakening of the summoning system. Then I will take you to find a suitable contract pet. Tang Mao remembered that Tang Yu later awakened the summoning system, but it was not clear whether it was the third system or the fourth system. However, if it is guided awakening, it should not be a problem. And he can also contract pets now, but for this second contract, he really doesn't know what to choose. Tang Yu paused, then nodded. Although she didn't know why Tang Mao asked her to guide the summoning of the third system, since it was he who proposed it, she naturally couldn't refuse. After chatting for a while, Tang Mao was ready to search on the computer. At this time, the intermittent memories in his mind suddenly emerged. It seemed that the killing jade had taken effect and directly brought him into the spiritual space. Then, a ray of light was instilled into his brain. Qianshan. Totem sacred beast white tiger? Hiss. After the light was input, he directly exited the spiritual space. Even though his mental power was very strong, he still collapsed on Tang Yu's delicate body with a tired face after coming out. Tang Yu, who was about to get up, was suddenly pressed down on the small sofa by Tang Mao again. I said no today. Thinking that Tang Mao was naughty, Tang Yu was about to refuse, but when he noticed that Tang Mao was sweating, he immediately dragged him up and hurriedly asked, "What's wrong with you?" Tang Mao took a slight breath and then said, "It's okay, maybe I practiced too long today." He didn't expect that this Kilin also has the function of searching for information. However, if he contracts a white tiger, it would be great. However, this matter obviously cannot be told to Tang Yu, at least not before returning. Otherwise, let alone the issue of whether the contract will be strong in the future, I'm afraid that I will not have the opportunity to contract at all. After all, Qianshan is a forbidden place for humans. If it weren't for the Kilin Jade indicating that the white tiger existed on Qianshan, he really wouldn't have had any idea at all. Chapter 30 Qianshan Hunting Ground. Thanks, damn, 1500 book coins for the reward. Thanks to mature and steady old friend for 1500 book coins. Thanks to Cold Feather for 500 book coins. Thanks to book friend point to 2936 for the reward. Tang Yu breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Tang Mao recover a little after being paralyzed for a while. Then she realized something was wrong and glared at Tang Mao. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and this is not a joke. Even when Tang Yu was angry and glaring, he felt that she was particularly beautiful. "Why don't you get up if you're okay?" Tang Yu glared, but saw Tang Mao's admiring look, and suddenly felt powerless. Oh. Tang Mao responded and stood up. "Rest, it's late. I have to go back tomorrow. There are a lot of things going on recently. I'm tracking a murderer named Cheohe." Hearing this, Tang Mao seemed to have thought of something, and then said, "If you find someone who needs help, tell me." Although Tang Yu didn't want Tang Mao to get involved in this kind of thing, when she thought that his strength was much stronger than hers, she nodded and said, "Okay." Because of the sudden visit of her aunt, the two of them just washed up and rested. The next morning, when Tang Mao woke up, Tang Yu had disappeared. He was not in a hurry to go to Qianshan. Although the sacred beast white tiger would show up, as long as it sensed the breath of Kilin, he was not sure whether this thing was reliable. At least, he had to have some self-protection ability before thinking about these things. After getting up, Tang Mao had breakfast and went to Qianshan hunting house. He was now a hunter, and there was no problem at all, but sometimes, strength alone was not enough. The brain is also crucial. Although he is also very smart, wouldn't it be better if the brain consuming things were shared with others? And the best candidate for this little brain is naturally Xiao Lingling. Tang Yu had already said hello to Len King of the Trial Council last night, so she could just go straight there today. Walking out on the flowery avenue under the scorching sun, Tang Mao had a layer of ice floating on his head. He was probably the only one who could use magic to cool down. After a while, he slowly walked into some old streets that looked like they had a unique flavor of the Republic of China. On the road, people looked at him from time to time. This kind of waste of magic energy to avoid heat is also a rare thing. Tang Mao chose to ignore the looks of everyone. The magic power of this little ice is nothing to him. At the end of the old street, you can see a sign that sways gently in the wind in the alley and makes a creaking sound. The sign has 4 big characters, Qianshan Hunting House. After getting closer, I finally saw clearly that this old shop looked like an old Chinese English tea house. At the door of this old shop, a little girl with long ponytails was sitting on a stool, shaking her cute little legs and reading a picture book. Looking at the arrogant little genius girl who was about to be included in the training, Tang Miao's Heng wanted to speak, but she said in a cold voice without raising her head, "Do you want to entrust? The starting price of the entrustment is 300,000, and the price will be adjusted according to the difficulty of the entrustment. We will not accept the entrustment of cats and dogs below 300,000. Her voice is ethereal and beautiful, just like the crisp ringing of a small silver bell in this summer, but the tone of her speech, the clear price, the cold and selfless look of if you have money, please come in, if you don't have money, get out, is really rude. However, those who are capable should be more arrogant. Although the girl is still young, with this figure, she must have a bright future. I'm here to apply for the job, because of Tang Yu's recommendation. Hearing this, Ling Ling finally put down the book in her hand, raised her creamy little face, and looked at Tang Mao with a pair of big eyes that sparkled with wisdom. Then she said with a little surprise, "Hey, you are the pervert who has 4 element and 2 soul seeds." Tang Mao looked at Ling Ling with a black line. "Are you praising me or scolding me? I know you. Come in." Ling Ling had no intention of responding to Tang Mao's question, and took him into the house. When they walked into the house, they saw an old man with a pipe in his mouth, sitting at the bar, and reading a newspaper carelessly. When the old man saw Tang Mao coming in, he smiled and said, "Are you Tang Mao?" "Yes. Born with dual element, awakened with dual souls, and a thought of Star Treks. Incredible, incredible." After mumbling for a while, old man Bao said, "I'm the president of Kingshan Hunting Institute. My surname is Bao. Just call me old man Bao from now on." Tang Mao curled his lips and said, "Am I hired now? Although there are many geniuses, there are not many who can roll around in the demon pile. With your fearless spirit, plus her sister's introduction, you don't have to go through so much trouble." Old man Bao took a puff of cigarette and said. Ling Ling on the side looked satisfied and nodded. "Yes, although you are not very old, you are quite strong and suitable to be with me." Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly. He was not afraid of death. He was not the kind of person who would really roll around in the demon pile for nothing, but he couldn't do it once, and the second time he was sure of absolute safety, so he just slacked off. Otherwise, let him go to die. Not possible. At this time, old man Bao smiled and said, "My granddaughter is not as smart as ordinary people. She is also a little proud and arrogant. Don't mind if I offend her." Tang Mao wanted to say, "Who is not a special existence?" However, after all, it was his brain and the future, so he just smiled and nodded, indicating that he didn't mind. Tang Mao nodded, looked at Ling Ling, and stretched out her hand and said, "Okay, in the future, when we offer rewards, you can do the brain work. I will do the hands-on work." Ling Ling also stretched out her soft little hand, held Tang Mao's big hand and said, "Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation." Tang Mao left his contact information and immediately prepared to leave. At this time, old man Bao said again, "Tang Mao, you should be careful when you go out. You have extraordinary talents and you don't have any hidden talents. Although you have friends in the Judgment Council, it is easy to dodge an open spear, but it is difficult to guard against an arrow from the dark. You should still be careful." Tang Mao looked back at old man Bao, and then wondered, "Old man Bao, does that mean someone is targeting me?" After blowing out a smoke ring, old man Bao said again, "Not at the moment, but with your specialness, you should always be careful." "Okay, I know, thank you." Tang Mao waved his hand and left immediately. This kind of private hunting house is just idle when there is no mission. Moreover, the Kingshan hunting house will not accept missions that are not difficult enough. Although there are many members, they are almost never here all year round. Just when Tang Mao had just left the store and walked for 10 minutes, the phone rang. Tang Mao was a little curious and asked, "Hey, Ling Ling, you're not going to tell me that there's a job right now?" Ling Ling seemed very excited, with joy in her tone, and she said without reservation, "Yes." A wealthy businessman from Xingrang homeland said that his daughter comes back every day looking pale and weak. He has invited a high-level magician, but it will take a week for him to come. During this period, we are asked to protect her for 7 days, 100,000 per day. If we can find any clues and solve the problem, the other party is willing to pay an additional 1 million. Do you want to take it? Tang Mao didn't even think about it, and said, "Take it, as long as you pay." Now he is short of money. Tang Mao carefully selected the most refined materials from the materials that the big snake shed its skin several times. These are not comparable to those that Mo Fan got. These are all the essences collected by Tang Zhang and others. After being found by Tang Mao, he asked Tang Yu to make it for him. Because of this, apart from the money for purchasing resources for Tang Yu's promotion, the rest was all used to provide Tang Yu with the money for making magic tools. It is estimated that this is not enough for him with his current net worth of about 10,000 yuan, so naturally he hopes to have more money, the better. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 31 Business is coming. After hanging up the phone, Tang Mao turned around and returned to the Kingshan hunting house. But when he came back, the man had already left, leaving behind a deposit of 300,000 yuan. That's 150,000 yuan right off the bat. When old man Bao saw Tang Mao coming back, he smiled and said, "Boy, that's great. You've made a deal right after you arrived. However, I'd like to remind you that the waters in this city are very deep, so just do your part. Don't go too deep, it's not good for you." "Don't worry, old man Bao, I won't do such stupid things as making money, but not spending it," Tang Mao responded. Then he looked at Ling Ling and said, "Where are the people we want to protect?" Ling Ling was very satisfied with Tang Mao's attitude. As long as she went to hunt monsters, she wouldn't need to go to school to be in a daze. In her little head, she had already learned all the 9 years of compulsory education thoroughly. Now all she needed to do was wait for the arrival of 16 years old. Then she took out a photo of a beautiful woman who seemed to be a schoolgirl. She didn't look very old, probably only about 17 or 18 years old. This chest. Ahem, this girl is still a student, right? Seeing Ling Ling's contemptuous look, Tang Mao hurriedly changed his words. Ling Ling nodded and then said, "She is a student of Xiangxing Magic High School. She is usually in the academy. Let's go directly to her campus. She should be in class now." "Okay." Tang Mao nodded and then pulled Ling Ling out of the Kingshan hunting house. Old man Bao looked at Tang Mao and Ling Ling who were leaving, and he was still a little worried. After all, according to what the other party said, it seems that this strange existence seems to be the work of those who are not in the light. If he guessed correctly, he was really afraid that Tang Mao could not handle it. Then he sighed, "Alas, I'm old, but I still worry about it." After walking out of the door, he locked it and left here. 2 hours later, Tang Mao and Ling Ling came to the Xiangxing Magic High School. The person they want to protect this time is called Deli Yuang. She is a senior student of Magic High School. This academy is also a top Magic High School. There are more than 60,000 students in the academy. It can be said that this small high school has as many students as a university. The campus is always full of youthful vitality. Not all students have experienced various terrible demon events just after they entered high school. Without experiencing the fear of demons and being polluted by society, the entire magic campus has always maintained a sense of holiness, and everything is full of hope and expectation. After Tang Mao and Ling Ling entered the academy, they were stunned. The place is really too big, and the two of them only knew the name of this girl and didn't know anything else. Fortunately, Ling Ling, a computer genius, took out her notebook and searched for a while before finally getting some clues. Immediately, the two of them went to the girls' class, and on the way they were looking for someone. They happened to meet two acquaintances. "Sister Mew, look, it's a stinky hooligan." The people walking in front were AI Tutu and Munijiro, who had met last time. Hearing AI Tutu's name, Ling Ling looked at Tang Mao with contempt. Tang Mao said helplessly, "Hey, big rabbit, how can you talk like that? I'm not deaf." The two came over, and Munijiro asked curiously, "Why did you come to our college?" Although they were not familiar with each other, they had met each other before. Now AI Tutu came up, and was so rude, so Munijiro came over to ask. When AI Tutu heard Tang Mao's address, he was stunned and asked in confusion, "How do you know my nickname?" Tang Mao ignored her, but looked at Munijiro and said, "My name is Tang Mao, her name is Ling Ling, and we are looking for someone named Deli Yuang." AI Tutu looked at Tang Mao with a vigilant look, and then said, "Why are you looking for Li Yuang? She already has a boyfriend." She already understood why Tang Mao called her that just now, but she had no reason to refuse. After all, the material is here, and this part is something that many women can't get. We are entrusted by her father to protect her. Tang Mao did not hide it, and directly told the whole story. Ling Ling wanted to stop them, but after Tang Mao indicated that it was okay, she stopped trying. After all, this was their academy. These two girls might be able to help. Mu Nijio and Liu Ying, and then she thought for a moment and said, Liu Ying is the same as us. Although it's summer vacation, she comes here every day to study magic. It seems that after the summer vacation, she will go to Europe to study. Apart from that, there seems to be no difference. AI22 also nodded and said, yes, there's nothing special about her recently. By the way, she recently got a boyfriend, who is quite handsome, but he's an ordinary person. Mu Nijio rolled her eyes at AI22, as if blaming him. This is someone else's private matter, why are you bringing it up? Tang Mao asked again in confusion, has she always had a boyfriend? AI22 stuck out her tongue, but when she heard Tang Mao's question, she immediately said, no, I think she just made friends a few days ago. But after she finished speaking, she realized something was wrong. It seemed that she would say whatever Tang Mao asked. Mu Nijio also looked helpless and puzzled at Tang Mao, feeling puzzled. After all, it was strange that Tang Mao asked about this matter. Tang Mao looked at Ling Ling and said, when did her father find out the abnormality? It was in the past few days. As early as when Tang Mao asked Mu Nijio and the two girls, Ling Ling also found something wrong at the same time. I think, if it is true as her father said, this girl is not overworked every night, then she has encountered a monster. AI22 took a step back with some disgust, and then said, you stinky hooligan, what are you thinking about all day? Mu Nijio and Ling Ling also looked down on him. Tang Mao shrugged and said, just talk about the matter. You take me to recognize the person. Follow her at night and you will know. Mu Nijio hesitated, and said in disbelief, did you really get commissioned? Tang Mao knew the black history of these two girls, so he dared to ask them for help. As a result, the other party actually doubted himself. Is he the kind of man who picks all kinds of wildflowers? The key is that, if he wants to collect, he doesn't dare to find someone familiar. Ling Ling, this little girl, knows Tang Yu. What if they talk about it that day? He is looking for excitement. You should know me, right? Tang Mao rolled his eyes at Mu Nijio, and then looked at Ling Ling and said, show these two scum your hunter certificate. Ling Ling curled her lips when she heard it. After all, their protection should be in the dark. It should not be known to others, especially unfamiliar people, to avoid trouble. However, she took out something similar to a police badge from her pocket and placed it in front of the two women. She felt that, although Tang Mao was a rookie, he would not believe anyone he saw, right? Moreover, there was obviously something wrong with this girl's situation. The two women looked at the badge in confusion, and they were all stunned when they saw the pattern clearly. Hunter Master? Who would have thought that a little loli would be a Hunter Master? Question mark? The Hunter badge issued by the Hunter Union cannot be faked, and it is even more tied to the identity. The Hunter badge that the little girl took out is indeed real. The problem is that the two women really can't believe that a 10-year-old girl is actually a master who has hunted countless monsters. However, the thing is real, so the two women naturally don't doubt anything. In addition, they also know Tang Mao, or in other words, as long as they are students and some people from aristocratic families, almost all of them have some influence on Tang Mao. It's like Mu Nijio's family has invited Tang Mao. Now, can you two take us to find someone? Although Tang Mao is a hunter scum, with Ling Ling here, it's not a big deal to upgrade. Mu Nijio nodded. Okay, come with us. AI22 followed Ling Ling and asked questions, but the little arrogant didn't pay much attention. P.S. Let me talk about the update situation. Before it goes on sale, there will be 2 updates a day. If there are large rewards or monthly votes of 10+, there will be more updates. I'm here myself. Please help me get on the list. Get a recommendation. Thank you. Thank you. After it's on the shelves, it depends on the results. If there are results, it's 10,000 a day. Forget it. Let's talk about it later. It's still early. After all, this is 70,000 words in a week. Finally, I can't give rewards. Readers on Kidian should follow up and don't support me. Thank you. The story is still very long, and the heroines have not appeared one by one. Chapter 32. Meet two girls again. It was the first time that AI-22 had seen such a young master hunter, and she didn't care about the little girl's arrogance. She continued to chatter and ask questions. Seeing Lingling's impatient look, Tangmao turned around and said, if your growth essence grew less on your chest, you would also be a smart girl. You. AI-22 was a little embarrassed and angry when she heard Tangmao talking about her pride again. But soon she laughed and said, do you want to touch me? Tangmao paused, and AI-22, who was walking behind and teasing her, bumped into him without noticing. Bang! AI-22 took several steps back after the collision. Fortunately, Lingling reacted quickly and dodged quickly, otherwise she would have been knocked down by her. Although she was usually careless, she had met the other person twice after all. But this was the second time she had been touched like this. AI-22 blushed and said, you did it on purpose. Tangmao raised her lips slightly, shook her head, and opened her hands, saying, Miss AI, please don't misunderstand me. I didn't do anything. Nijio heard the noise behind her and turned around to see AI-22 arguing with Tangmao. Looking at Lingling who was coming over, she asked in confusion, what's wrong with him? Lingling shook her head, as if she didn't understand the world of big kids. However, thanks to Tangmao's behavior, she finally had peace of mind. Nijio was very upset and looked at Tangmao behind her and said, are you still looking for someone? Look. Tangmao stretched out his hand to cover AI-22's mouth and nodded. Nonsense, I'm here to make money, not to pick up girls. AI-22 was treated so rudely that the power of the world seemed to be about to burst out. However, Tangmao turned back and whispered, this is a matter of life and death. If you make trouble again, I will spank you. AI-22 immediately backed off. He stopped making trouble immediately. Of course, he was not afraid of being beaten, but just because he knew what was more important. Tangmao was just trying to scare him. AI-22, Paina is also capable. After the four of them arrived at where Liu Yuang was, Tangmao looked at the girl sitting there. Then he said, it seems that she is nothing special. AI-22 snorted, that's why I suspect that you are plotting something bad. Tangmao rolled his eyes at AI-22. If I had any ideas, would I bring a little lolly with me? AI-22 was embarrassed for a while, snorted twice, and then hugged Munugio to complain about his grievances. Looking at Munugio who was in a daze under the big rabbit's wrapping, Tangmao was envious. You know, AI-22's level has surpassed Tang Yu, otherwise Tangmao would not have teased her. Munugio naturally didn't care about this. After all, her arm was treated like this every day. But after all, she is also a girl, so she didn't feel much. In the past few days, when Liu Yuang came in the morning, she did look like she was not getting enough sleep. Could it be that she really encountered some trouble? Munugio was silent for a moment, and then recalled. It seems that she was indeed entangled by a monster. After Munugio finished speaking, Lingling also said affirmatively. Tangmao thought for a while before saying, you can go back. Leave the rest to us. No. Why? After Tangmao finished speaking, the two women refused at the same time. What a joke. Hunting monsters is so exciting. One is warlike and the other likes exciting things. Naturally, the two women will not miss it. Tangmao said helplessly, the monsters in the city, even if they are weaker, may be at the level of generals. There is no benefit for you two to get involved. Lingling is a monster hunting master after all. She knows how to protect herself. But, these two silly girls? It seems that they are just at the intermediate level. In this case, how can Tangmao bring them in? Although Sister Mu and I are not as perverted as you, we have ways to save our lives, even if we can't beat them. You bastard, just let us go together. After all, we are still classmates. AI-22 left Munugio and came to Tangmao, and the big rabbit wrapped around him. Just now, she looked aggrieved, but now she directly gave herself to the rabbit. Tangmao was a little impressed by this girl's reversal. But it was soft and soft, not to mention, stimulating ahem. No, what if it is something powerful? I can't beat it. Then you will be in real danger. Although Tang Mao was a little distracted, this kind of thing is not a joke. Still refused. AI Tutor begged again and again, but didn't get consent, gnashing his teeth and whispering in Tang Mao's ear. I don't know what AI Tutu said, but Tang Mao finally agreed. Of course, he definitely didn't agree, because his arm enjoyed the pleasure. The main reason was that AI Tutu promised Tang Mao that after the second semester of enrollment, he would persuade Munigio and the two girls to share a house with him. It's true that he would never refuse such a thing as raising a little sister. As for AI Tutu, it would be exciting to play with Tang Mao. As for the issue of personal safety, this girl simply ignored it. Anyway, no matter what, the two of them hit it off. Ling Ling hesitated, pulled Tang Mao aside and said, "Is it really okay for you to take these two rookies with you?" Tang Mao pretended to be helpless and said, "What can I do if I don't take them with me? Do you think they will leave obediently?" Ling Ling stared at Tang Mao with a questioning look. Being stared at by such pure eyes, Tang Mao really felt a little embarrassed. Then he said, "Really, if you can persuade them to leave, then you come." Ling Ling shook her head and sighed. "I hope they won't cause trouble at that time. They were the ones who asked about it in the first place, and now it's useless to refuse. Moreover, there is nothing wrong with what they said. After all, the classmate is involved in it. She is a little girl. High IQ does not mean high EQ." After taking care of Ling Ling, Munigio said softly, "Liu Yang seems to be leaving. Follow her." After Ling Ling finished speaking, the four of them followed her not far away and walked out of the school. It took them half an hour just to walk out of the school. They were following Liu Yang and heard AI Tutu's voice. The three of them looked at her at the same time, and Tang Mao was even more puzzled and asked, "What's wrong?" After all, they were classmates and in the same class. Although AI Tutu didn't have much relationship with her, she also knew where the other party's home was. So she said, "She seems to be on her way home. Are there any monsters there?" Hearing AI Tutu's lost voice, Tang Mao shrugged and said, "Wouldn't it be better if there were no monsters?" AI Tutu was a little dissatisfied and then said, "How can this be?" Ling Ling looked at Tang Mao, who was hesitating, and said, "Let's go. We are here to protect her, and we have to follow her, whether there is anything or not." Tang Mao nodded and then said, "Okay, there is no chance to take you to catch monsters this time. Next time." As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Mao followed. Munigio always felt that something was wrong and looked at AI Tutu and said, "Tutu, I feel something is wrong too. Why don't we follow and see?" AI Tutu was not interested, but Munigio was willing, so she had to follow. Moreover, she had to find a way to make Munigio willing to share a house with her and Tang Mao. Chapter 33, The Picky Vampire. Thanks, Taosei, for the 500 book coins reward. Thanks for the memories, and thanks to the book friend Tale number 4735 for the reward. The four followed Liu Yang all the way to her home. AI Tutu, who was standing not far away, felt a little bored and said, "See, I said she went home. It's so boring. System U, let's go back." Tang Mao always felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. "Tang Mao, let's go back too. Her father said that we only need to be responsible for her going home. That's all." Ling Ling put on her small school bag and looked at Tang Mao and said, although there were some doubts in her heart, it was just as Ling Ling said. The other party had returned home, and it had nothing to do with them. Their mission was just to protect the other party's safety outside, and they were no longer needed at home. Then Tang Mao said, "Okay, let's go back. You two should be careful when you go back." Although Munigio also felt that something was wrong, she had already arrived home. Naturally, there would be no more problems. Moreover, they were not very familiar with Tang Mao. Since everything was fine, there was naturally nothing to stay for. After separating from Munigio and the other two girls, on the way back to Kingshan hunting house, Tang Mao looked at Ling Ling, who was deep in thought, and said, "Do you feel something is wrong?" Ling Ling nodded her head, then looked at Tang Mao and said, "According to her father, Liu Yang goes home very late every day, and every time she goes back, she looks pale. But there is no problem today. I always feel that something is wrong." Although Tang Mao doesn't like to meddle in other people's business, when he thought of the reward after solving the problem, Tang Mao stopped and said, "Why don't we go back and take a look?" "You are a fool," Ling Ling said unhappily. "She has already gone home tonight. There will definitely be no problem at her home. We can just come and watch her tomorrow morning." Being taught a lesson by the little lolly, Tang Mao curled his lips and said, "In Conan, don't the perpetrators always choose this time to act? The security personnel in this community are all intermediate magicians. If so many of them can't protect the other party, how can you do it by yourself?" Hearing this, Tang Mao's mouth twitched. He really hadn't noticed this before. It turned out that there were intermediate magicians who came to guard the gate. Seeing Tang Mao in a daze, Ling Ling smiled and said, "Does it feel hard to imagine?" Tang Mao shook his head. He never doubted the saying money makes the world go round. The kind of money that can't buy everything shown on TV is bullshit. The world is so realistic. If there is a national war, maybe rich people are nothing. However, in a stable and peaceful scene, having a lot of money is the father. Just like Zhao Manan's brother, what's wrong with him being a businessman? He still knocked out his brother who studied magic. It was because he got the halo and the help of Beizar, otherwise, he would have died long ago. "Then shall we stay here tonight?" "Yeah." Tang Mao followed Ling Ling, feeling helpless. How could he, such a big man, be commanded by a little lolly? The two passed by a milk tea shop. Ling Ling looked at the puzzled Tang Mao and said, "I want to drink milk tea." "Okay, wait." Tang Mao was a little embarrassed. Like a dog, he ran to the milk tea shop. There was no way. From now on, he would not only be his own little think tank, but also his lucky star who would have to cover for him. He had to lick her. Besides, it was nothing to lick such a cute little lolly. There were many people in the milk tea shop, but the delivery was quite efficient. In 10 minutes, Tang Mao came back with 2 cups of milk tea. After handing Ling Ling a cup, the two sat on a stone bench nearby. Ling Ling took the milk tea, inserted the straw, and gulped it down. Her little mouth was pouting, which was extremely cute. Maybe Ling Ling herself realized that her obsession with milk tea was not very ladylike, so she changed the subject and said, "What kind of monster do you think is causing trouble?" "How should I know? This is my first time hunting monsters." Tang Mao shrugged, but he had a general idea in his mind. After all, he had never caught a monster, but he had seen one. Judging from the girl's daily behavior, it was very likely that it was done by the vampires. Ling Ling also said at this time, the demon city is huge. It can be said that it is an ecosystem. It is not just us humans who live there, but also many monsters and ghosts, and even some strange species. They may be normal people during the day, but it is hard to say at night. After a pause, Ling Ling turned around and said, "Do you know vampires?" Tang Mao paused, then said, "I know Batman, Spider-Man and Iron Man." Ling Ling looked disdainful, and then spat out a word, "Get lost." He was just joking, and he didn't mean anything else. However, it was obvious that Ling Ling didn't like this joke. Okay, go on." Ling Ling Geo snorted, then said, "Those on TV are all fake. Of course, there are also some people who are parasitic and infected, which causes them to mutate from humans. Some mutated people will still choose to live among the crowd like a normal person. But there are also some who, perhaps for the sake of powerful power, do things that are against the will of heaven and earth." Tang Mao nodded. "Is there absolutely good or bad in the world? And Liuang's symptoms are consistent with the style of vampires. These vampires are very tasteful. They not only attack women, but they often carefully select their prey, and this prey must be the beauties in your eyes. Different vampires have different fetishes. Some like long flowing hair, some like virgins, and some like fair skin." Hearing that this damn vampire is still so picky, Tang Mao was displeased. After all, he is not so picky. Everyone is willing, as long as it is beautiful, isn't it? However, it always feels a bit awkward to be lectured by a little girl who should be watching Pleasant Goat and Bold Strong. But after listening to Ling Ling, Tang Mao's previous guess was confirmed. Tang Mao's idea was very simple, especially for things that hurt girls. He stretched out his hand and clenched his fist and said, "No matter what it is, if it is suspected of harming people's lives, just destroy it." In fact, in his opinion, the people who were picked may not die in a short time, but it is hard to say for a long time. So, if you meet them, you should destroy them. After all, her father buys heads for 1 million. Of course, he is to protect the young and beautiful girl, not for money. Ling Ling hesitated, looked at Tang Mao and said, if the other party is not going to hurt his life, we'd better not provoke him, or we'll get into trouble. As long as there is a bastard, I'm the embodiment of justice, so what trouble am I afraid of? When you find out, you hide, and leave the rest to me. Seeing Tang Mao's appearance of wanting money over life, Ling Ling was very curious and said, since you are so short of resources, why don't you think about joining a big force? With your talent, I think no matter which force it is, they will be willing to spend a lot of resources to train you, right? Tang Mao looked up at the starry sky and smiled. Everyone has their own ambitions. Ling Ling didn't say anything. Sometimes, ambition doesn't mean everything. After all, without huge resources to support, even if you have excellent talent, it can only be reflected in this intermediate stage. When it comes to sprinting to a high-level magician, the resource consumption is so huge. In this era, there are still so many magicians who are willing to become lackeys of aristocratic families. It's not all because they don't have lofty ambitions. Many people fail in reality. A law-abiding magician who doesn't steal, kill, or steal treasures is no different from an ordinary person. Even if the income from work is higher, the consumption is also not small. That is, people like Tang Mao and Mo Fan, who are born with cheating devices, can rise from the grassroots without relying on any forces. If there is no Killing Jade, Tang Mao may refuse any force at the beginning, but after reaching this level, he is likely to choose to join the trial council and be a fool for life. After all, even with the help of Killing Jade, he has entered the 3-step tower again. He is only at the second level of the intermediate level now. Without the double experience value of Killing Jade, and without any resources, he may just be at the intermediate level now. Okay, let's find a place to rest. We have to protect her tomorrow. Ling Ling saw Tang Mao's thoughts, drank the last sip of milk tea, stood up and said. Tang Mao came back to his senses and nodded. After a while, the two came to a hotel. Tang Mao took out his ID card and was going to book a room, but Ling Ling was very dissatisfied. Helplessly, Tang Mao still spent money to book 2 rooms. During this period, he was also despised by the lady at the front desk. It seemed that he looked like a beast. Tang Mao was full of helplessness. He looked like a weird uncle who would not let go of any little girl. Question mark? After the two went upstairs, Old Man Bao also came in. Tang Mao should be glad that he did not live with Ling Ling, although he did not have any bad intentions. However, Old Man Bao, who was worried about their safety, was very worried about his little granddaughter at this time. However, after asking clearly, Old Man Bao was relieved a lot. He also opened a room and stayed here. In the room, Tang Mao took a comfortable bath and asked Tang Yu about Cheohee on the phone. After confirming that she had not been tracked down, he chatted with her ambiguously for a while and then fell asleep. Xiao Ling Ling was absorbed in the computer data and even asked her sister about some things about vampires. But Bao Lao Tao was simple and fell asleep. P.S. Read it, don't keep it. If you have the conditions, give me a reward, or give me some monthly tickets. Chapter 34 Secret Protection. Thanks, damn, I gave you 500 book coins. The next day, when the sun was high in the sky, Bao Lao Tao stood outside the hotel with a helpless look on his face. He didn't expect that these two guys could sleep until now. Although there would be nothing during the day, didn't the two of them agree to go to protect others early in the morning? Inside the hotel, after Ling Ling received a call from Bao Lao Tao asking about it, she realized that it was already past 11 o'clock. Then she called Tang Mao out. Ling Ling, didn't you say you would go to protect Liu Wang early yesterday? Why are you calling me now? Tang Mao yawned, looking like he hadn't slept enough. He went to bed early yesterday, but he didn't fall asleep after a while, so he started watching videos. Later, he thought about taking a nap. After all, Ling Ling was there. I checked the information for most of the night yesterday, and I thought you would call me. Really, you are so unreliable at such an adult? Ling Ling complained with a pout. The two of them blamed each other with their own little emotions. After leaving the hotel, they headed towards the Magic High School. Obviously, it was their first collaboration, and the two had only one thought in their minds. That is, the other loved to be lazy in bed. However, after arriving at the academy, the childishness dissipated. After all, one did not like to study, and the other was for money. All the trivial matters were not worth worrying about in front of the serious matters. The two did not meet AI-Tutu and Munigio today, and they were relieved. After all, although they were also magicians, and had all kinds of magic tools, they were rookies after all. Who knows if they would be scared to death when they met monsters. So it is naturally a good thing not to meet them. However, after the two found where Liu Yang was, they were dumbfounded. They saw Munigio and AI-Tutu, who were actually here. Although they did not approach Liu Yang, they were obviously here for her. After all, although they were eating, they were obviously absent-minded. Ling Ling looked at Tang Mao helplessly, and that look seemed to say, "It's all your fault. Now not only do you have to protect this Liu Yang, but you also have to take care of two rookies." Tang Mao was also full of helplessness. Although he asked them, because he wanted to get to know each other, he didn't expect that they would be so concerned about this matter. Aren't they in a hurry to practice? Knowing that the two girls would not leave easily, Tang Mao took Ling Ling over and sat next to Munigio. Seeing someone sitting next to her, Munigio was stunned, and then she didn't get angry when she saw that it was Tang Mao and the other two. Instead, she asked in confusion, "Why did you come just now? Aren't you supposed to protect Liu Yang all day?" Hearing this, Tang Mao and Ling Ling looked at each other at the same time. Then they turned their heads and looked elsewhere. After a moment of silence, Tang Mao explained, "Even if she has something to do, it should be at night, and it will be fine during the day. Why are you two here again? Are you free?" AI-Tutu pouted and came to Tang Mao's side, saying, "This is our school, why can't we be here? Besides, it's okay for you two strangers to be here for a day or two, but if we don't follow you for a long time, people will be suspicious." Tang Mao's resistance to this kind of coquetry was instantly reduced by half. Besides, things that make girls sad are not suitable for him. However, dealing with demons is really not a joke, so he had to be a little more serious. This is a dangerous thing, not a joke. We just want to see it, and maybe we can help, right, Sister Mu? AI-Tutu shook Tang Mao's arm and whispered to Munigio. Munigio was obviously also very interested, and after all, they were classmates, so they would naturally help if there was danger. Nodding and whispering in response, "We won't cause any trouble, don't worry." In the end, Tang Mao agreed. However, as AI-Tutu said, with the two of them around, no one came to ask about their origins or anything. But the envious and jealous eyes kept coming. Feeling the malicious eyes around, Tang Mao didn't care much. After all, if she didn't get jealous when doing it next to the goddess, wouldn't it mean that the girl herself was not beautiful enough? As the protected object, Liu Yang was actually quite puzzled at first, because today she found that AI-Tutu and Munigio were always staring at her. I always felt that something was wrong. But later, when Tang Mao and the others arrived, Liu Yang felt that she was overthinking. AI-Tutu and Munigio observed Liu Yang from time to time at first, but were later scolded by Tang Mao. These two silly girls were obviously doing this for the first time, but they were doing this, which was supposed to be a good thing, but they always felt like they were doing something bad. Fortunately, Ling Ling was not surprised and looked used to it. The four of them sat there stupidly until the afternoon when school was over. When Liu Yang left, Munigio and AI-Tutu wanted to get up. But at the same time, the two girls felt a big hand pressing down on their smooth shoulders. Munigio looked over shyly, while AI-Tutu looked like you've been exposed, right? Tang Mao let go and said, "Don't get me wrong, it's just that, if you follow me rashly like this, you'll inevitably be misunderstood." Munigio Sido and AI-Tutu approached Tang Mao and whispered with a smile, "Okay, you let's do it now, big rabbit. If you make trouble again, I won't call you if there's anything fun in the future." Tang Mao responded in a low voice. AI-Tutu shut up decisively after hearing this. However, the whispering of the two made Munugio a little confused. However, she didn't have time to think too much. Lingling got up and said let's go, and the three followed. After watching Liu Yang walk to the cafeteria, the four of them had some doubts, and then they went in. Speaking of which, it's time to replenish some energy. Today, the two haven't eaten yet. But just after they entered the cafeteria, Liu Yang came over. After she came, she looked at Tang Mao and Lingling and asked, "Are you the people my father hired to protect me?" Obviously, the other party had discovered them. Lingling was not surprised. After all, Munigio and AI22 were observing them from time to time. Anyone with a little brain could detect something wrong. Tang Mao nodded and said, "That's right." Liu Yang looked at Munigio and AI22 with some curiosity. Her eyes stayed on Munigio and said with a slightly mocking feeling, "He is here to protect me. I don't know why the goddess Mu is following me. You are not the ones who want to protect me too, right?" Munigio and AI22 were embarrassed. Although the three were classmates, they didn't have a particularly good relationship. Moreover, Munigio became the girl suppressed by the goddess of the college, and that was Liu Yang. The first and second beauty, although it is just an evaluation, but people who care about them often don't like the person who suppresses them. This is a fact. PS. A good friend asked me to adopt Muningsu. Are you interested? Chapter 35 Liu Yang's fear. Munigio nodded and said, "We are classmates. I heard that you may have been harassed by something recently, so I want to help." Liu Yang smiled and said directly, "I don't need it. Please don't follow me anymore." "Hey, we mean well, why are you like this?" AI22 said a little unhappy. Liu Yang snorted lightly, turned around and walked to the dining table in the distance with her hips twisted. Lingling took out a communicator, handed it to Tang Mao and said, "You follow her, but be careful, we just need to keep in touch." Okay. Under the current circumstances, Lingling would definitely not be able to follow. Moreover, this little girl was obviously a little troublesome. AI22 looked at Liu Yang leaving and said angrily, "System U, let's go. Why do people like this care about her life or death? They really don't know what's good for them." Munigio looked at Lingling and said, "The two of us will leave first. I think seeing her like this, it shouldn't be a big deal. She also has a temper. She originally wanted to help others and see the monsters by the way, but now it seems that they are obviously meddling." After saying that, she dragged AI22, who was angry and wanted to fight, away directly. Lingling nodded, then found a seat to sit down and started playing with her notebook. As for their departure, it was actually good for them. At least without these two rookies, even if they really encountered something they couldn't afford to offend, Tang Mao would stand up for them, and she would still have a chance to take Liu Yang away. After Liu Yang sat down, Tang Mao sat next to her. Looking at Liu Yang, who was originally very angry, her face calmed down at this time. Tang Mao looked at her and asked in confusion, "Did you let them leave on purpose?" Liu Yang paused, then looked at Tang Mao, hesitated for a moment and said, "No, I just don't like Munigio." "What is your relationship with Munigio? Why did you come to protect me, but you are always with them?" "She and I have nothing to do with each other. We only met once. I asked them for help when I came to you. It turned out that they also wanted to help, so." Liu Yang lowered her head and interrupted, "My affairs are very troublesome. They shouldn't intervene. I advise you to leave too." Tang Mao paused, then said, "So, you are really pestered every day?" Liu Yang nodded. "Then why didn't you tell your father? Isn't he very rich?" Liu Yang shook her head and then said, "The other party is very strong and terrible. Although my father is rich, the most powerful people he invited are some high-level magicians. But the other party can find me at any time, or they can never find me, so everything is in vain." Tang Mao paused after hearing this, and asked in confusion, "Then why didn't you tell your father about this?" Liu Yang said helplessly, "What's the use of telling? Muenuo is too strong. If we really offend him, both my father and I will die. You should leave. He won't kill me. He just wants some of my blood every day." It's not that she didn't think about this, but every time her blood was sucked, her wounds healed almost instantly. Without evidence, no one cared about these. Her father also found bodyguards for her several times, but as long as it was a high-level magician, the other party would not show up at all. His father was just an ordinary businessman, and the fees charged by high-level magicians were not small, and mid-level magicians were not his opponents at all. And finally the other party has threatened her that, if she doesn't want her father to suddenly disappear one day, the best way is to supply him with her own blood every day. Obviously, Liu Yang has chosen to compromise. Tang Mao held his chin and said, "From what you said, the other party has not been looking for you recently, right?" Liu Yang hesitated, and then said, "Yes, it has been a long time. It's just that he needs more blood recently." Tang Mao said again, "Then do you know his strength?" Liu Yang thought about it and estimated, above the middle level, below the high level. This is his first mission, can he allow it to fail like this? Moreover, the other party can be confirmed to be a member of the Blood Clan. However, no matter what he is, since he is not a high level strength, he immediately said, "Since I have met a beautiful girl like you, I can't just sit back and watch. I will take care of this matter. By the way, after the matter is done, let your father dismiss the hired people and double my reward." Liu Yang paused and looked at Tang Mao, as if he was a fool. "Did you understand? Nuo is very strong. My brother was almost killed by him. And my brother is a level 3 intermediate mage. Just consider it as a thank you for your kindness. I will ask my dad to pay you all the money for the past few days." But she didn't want to drag Tang Mao to deliver the food. Of course, the main reason was that she didn't want to anger Nuo because of a person who valued money over life. She was really scared. "I will take care of this matter. As for the outcome, it has nothing to do with you. When the time comes, just cut off your relationship with me." Tang Mao ate the food ordered by Liu Yang, and also ordered one for Lingling, but he didn't care whether the other party was strong or not. Who can be stronger than him in the intermediate level? But even if he said this, the woman in front of him probably wouldn't believe it, right? Moreover, she was obviously not worried about herself, but was afraid that she would fail. Their father and daughter would be in trouble. This is because they are short of money, and this is because she is a beauty. Otherwise Tang Mao would turn around and leave. Seeing that Tang Mao did not listen to the advice, Liu Yang was a little angry, and then said, "If you die, I will not be responsible." "Well, where is my partner? If you die, she will collect the body, so you don't have to worry about it. Now can you take me to see this vampire?" After eating and drinking, Tang Mao stood up and asked. Liu Yang pointed at Tang Mao, a little angry, and then she suddenly froze. She seemed to be trembling with fear. "Let's go, lead the way." From her appearance, it was obvious that the vampire who was looking for death should be nearby. Liu Yang had no choice, and felt that the other party was calling her, so she could only take Tang Mao out of the cafeteria. Lingling followed from a distance, and told Tang Mao, "These vampires are difficult to kill. You have to be careful." Tang Mao responded confidently, "As long as the strength is not high level, you are scum in front of me." He was not bragging. 12 times the thunder, even if it is a second level skill, is nearly as powerful as the first level high level skill. And he also has ice, space and summoning systems. Blind arrogance is obviously not talking about him. 10 minutes later, the two left the school. The other party seemed to have noticed Tang Mao's presence, and deliberately asked Liu Yang to take him to an alley. After arriving, Tang Mao looked over, and saw a man in a black windbreaker standing there. His sharp and handsome chin and profile were hidden in his collar, and only his straight nose and a pair of pupils glowing with evil luster were exposed. "Xiaoying, if you are unwilling to obey me completely, I will only take your blood. But you should not forget my warning." Nuo looked at Liu Yang and threatened coldly. Liu Yang was a little scared and explained with a slightly crying voice, "I didn't let him come, but he insisted on coming. Please, let my father go. As long as you don't hurt him, I will agree to you." "Hey boy, since my little beauty has agreed, I will let you." Boom boom. PS. Before it is put on the shelves, there are not many people who can burst. I have been reading 10,000 a day these days, just for everyone to follow and get a recommendation. Let more people see this book. Contentment is the key to happiness. A new January has begun. Let's work hard together. Read more, and those who are in a good mood will just get a set meal. Finally, I wish everyone who reads more, rewards, and votes for the monthly ticket to grow 1 centimeter every day. Chapter 36 Solution. Before Muenuo finished speaking, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and hit him directly. Although it was only an elementary thunder seal, the power of this thunder was not weaker than that of intermediate magic. But even so, Muenuo only suffered some external injuries, and it seemed that he was fine. No wonder he could scare a proud and arrogant rich lady like this. He really has something. Tang Mao sneered and said to the vampire Muenuo in front of him, Zizaro. Thunderbolt. Boom. As Tang Mao pointed to the sky, a more ferocious thunderbolt fell from the sky in an instant. Just when Muenuo reacted and wanted to dodge, his feet suddenly froze. Boom boom, another burst of thunderous sound came out, and the ground where Muenuo was split. However, the physical strength of the Blood Clan is not weak, and Tang Mao always likes to take advantage of his weakness to kill him. When he made a move, he naturally hit the opponent directly, so that he could not fight back. Zilla. Thunder was everywhere, and then one destruction magic after another was blasted out. Even the defense of the vampires could not make any waves under Tang Mao's thunder bombardment. The most important thing is that Tang Mao's magic is almost non-stop. Various skills of ice and thunder space are directly greeted on Muenuo's body. Bao Leo and Lingling, who were watching the battle here from a distance, were both shocked. Grandpa, this guy's really a pervert. Although Lingling had heard of Tang Mao's strength, hearing and witnessing with her own eyes were clearly two different concepts. This fierce fighting power is simply indescribable. The most terrifying thing is that his output alone is almost enough to withstand two small teams. Bao Leo took a puff of cigarette and then sighed. It seems that I, the old man, worried too much. He was afraid that Tang Mao and Lingling could not cope with it before, so he came here. Unexpectedly, the result was like this. The grandfather and grandson were shocked in the distance, and Liu behind Tang Mao was even more shocked. How could she not want to get rid of this demon? However, the other party is intelligent. As long as there is a high-level magician around, he will not appear at all. And the high-level magician is not her family. Once he leaves, the other party will appear. This Muenuo is a nightmare for her. At this moment, Liu, who saw hope, said excitedly, kill him. As long as you can kill him, I will let my father pay you 10 times the bounty. Tang Mao stopped torturing the vampire after hearing this. He was just disgusted by this kind of thing. After all, the country has so few resources, and this thing wants to share a piece of the pie. It's too cheap for him to die. For this kind of thing, you may not dare to kill a magician. But it's different for ordinary beautiful girls. So, Tang Mao didn't give him the last blow for a long time, not because he couldn't kill him, but just let him accept retribution. But after hearing what Liu said, Tang Mao didn't hold back. Of course, he didn't do it for money, it was for justice. Purple Sky Domain. Boom boom in this area full of thunder. After the domain was opened, Muenuo was even more convulsed by thunder. After breaking his 2 teeth, another thunderbolt descended. This arrogant Muenuo was completely reduced to ashes before he could even fight back. Although it was fun to abuse the ghost just now, the consumption of magic energy was also extremely large. After taking a breath, Tang Mao turned around and looked at Liu, who was so excited that she was crying, and said in a light voice, remember what you just said. After that, he left here. Tang Mao loves money and girls, but he is not very interested in such girls who are submissive when encountering things, even if her breasts are really great. After leaving here, Tang Mao received a message from Lingling. When he met Lingling, Bao Leo Tao had already left. Lingling looked at Tang Mao and said, you are very strong, you can barely be my partner. Tang Mao stretched out his hand and pinched her little face and said, didn't I tell you that you are responsible for brains and I'm responsible for fighting? In the future, we will be the youngest hunting kings, right? Lingling nodded happily, but didn't mind Tang Mao pinching her little face. Lingling said again, I want 500,000 yuan for the reward she gave me this time, and the rest is yours. Tang Mao waved his hand and said, no need, half for each of us is fine. It's useless for me to ask for money now. You can make it up to me after I awaken my magic. Besides, she raised the price for you alone this time." Hearing this, Tang Mao's mouth corner slightly raised, although it was shameless. But he had guessed that Ling Ling would not take the money. Thank you, Ling Ling couldn't see that this shameless guy was playing tricks on her, but she didn't care. After all, if Tang Mao became her partner, he would be stronger, and it would be easier to take on bounty missions in the future. After the vampire incident was over, Liu Yang's father sent 10 million the next day. Ling Ling only took 500,000 yuan and gave the rest to Tang Mao. Tang Mao gave all the money to Tang Yu, and Tang Yu said that the Black Snake Demon armor had been successfully produced. However, it would take Tang Mao to reach a high level before it could be used. In addition, she also prepared a pair of magic shoes for Tang Mao, named Cloud Stepping Boots, which were also high level. Originally, Tang Yu wanted to get him a mid-level magic tool, but Tang Mao directly asked for a high-level one. In the end, Tang Yu had to agree. After all, according to Tang Mao's cultivation speed, it was not difficult to reach the high level. In the next month, Tang Mao practiced except for accepting the bounty from Ling Ling. After a month, Tang Mao had nothing to do, so he entered the 3-step tower again. Dean Zhao was just like the Thunder Department instructor. He was very helpless for Tang Mao, a student who only came to collect resources and did not participate in anything. However, there was definitely no such thing as a lesson. After all, his talent and strength were here. And this time, Tang Mao directly entered the 3rd floor. After 7 days, he successfully cultivated the Thunder Department to the 3rd level. At the age of 18, he had reached the 3rd level of intermediate magic. Looking around the world, there are not many people like him. After leaving the 3-step tower, the first thing Tang Mao did was to tell Tang Yu. Tang Yu was indeed surprised to learn that Tang Mao was at the same level as her. The 3-step tower of Mingzu Academy is very nice, but the treatment of the Triennial Council is not bad. Under such circumstances, Tang Mao was able to catch up in such a short time. Who would believe that he was not gifted? Of course, both of them knew that the killing jade in Tang Mao's body also gave him great help. However, only the two of them knew about this. P.S. Please give me a monthly ticket and reward. Follow me, my friends. Chapter 37, Meeting AI Tutu. Thanks, Zioao for the 1500 book coins reward. Thanks to the book friend with the last number 550 for the 500 book coins reward. Thanks to the Wanshu traveler. Another few days passed. Tang Mao practiced all the time. Recently, Kingshan Hunting House has not received any business, and Mingzu Academy still has more than 10 days to go. So, apart from practicing at home, he really has nothing else to do. Just when he was about to practice, the phone suddenly rang with the sound of incoming music. Hearing the sound, Tang Mao picked up the phone from the coffee table and saw that the caller was AI Tutu. He was a little confused, but he still picked up the phone and answered the call. AI Tutu, why didn't you go to the sunbathing with your butt naked so early in the morning? Why did you think of calling me? It seemed that he didn't expect Tang Mao to say this when he answered the phone. AI Tutu was stunned for a moment and then said with a shameful and angry tone, Tang Mao, you stinky hooligan, if you do this again, I will hang up the phone. Bye, Tang Mao said, and hung up directly. AI Tutu has almost no advantages, except that the rabbit is a little bigger. It is better to avoid such a cute and stupid woman. After all, although IQ is an 8, it also has a certain influence with the acquired companionship. Moreover, she called him, and Tang Mao felt that it must be nothing good. At this time, in a room in a villa, AI Tutu looked at the hung up phone and was suddenly unhappy. You know, she finally persuaded Munujio to rent a house with her, but now she wanted Tang Mao to treat her to a meal to reward herself. Unexpectedly, this bastard actually hung up directly. After AI Tutu rolled around for a while, she finally let out her anger, but the more Tang Mao did this, the more she suddenly wanted to share a house with him. After all, there might be fun things with Tang Mao. And especially the usually arrogant Liu Ying. When they asked Tang Mao humbly, AI Tutu and Munujio could be sure the other party was really in trouble, and it seemed very tricky, but it was solved by Tang Mao. A22 and the others naturally couldn't tell her about Tangmao, but through this incident, A22 and Munugio naturally became interested in Tangmao. The key to their interest was hunting monsters, but Munugio didn't expect that A22, this girl, would actually share a house with the other party. A little angry, A22 picked up the phone and dialed again. Beep, beep. What are you doing, stupid girl? Brother is very busy. As soon as the phone was connected, there came a tone that made people want to beat him up, but A22 enjoyed it and didn't hesitate, and said directly, I called you because I promised to share a house with you last time. Tangmao paused, a little puzzled. Share a house? What share a house? After solving the vampire issue last time, Tangmao had long forgotten the previous agreement with A22. The main reason was that he didn't think it was possible. After all, freshmen need to live on campus first to leave a good impression on the school. Even if he was the one who went straight to the main campus, didn't he still live in the school for a while? When A22 heard what Tangmao said, she was stunned again. In her opinion, Tangmao was not a gentleman. Now two beauties were renting with him, but he didn't care. However, when she thought about how he took advantage of her from time to time after several contacts, A22 felt that he was a pervert. There was always a feeling of playing hard to get, so she snorted and said, since you don't remember, forget it. Wait. Tangmao did forget, but how could he refuse to raise a canary? Although he was short of money, he could still afford the rent. Although A22 was a little stupid, if he added Munugio and lived together for 3 to 5 years, wouldn't he give each of them a little life? It's such an important thing. I didn't even think of it just now. Damn it. How about this, Miss AI, come out and we find a place to talk about it in detail. AI22 said in a delicate voice, how didn't you forget just now? Now I don't want to share the house with you anymore. Well, it doesn't matter whether you rent it or not. Just trick Munugio to me. Tangmao smiled. Upon hearing this, AI22's primitive power burst out and roared, Tangmao. Although AI22 was a little stupid, but in the case of buy one get one free, how can this be a big deal? At that moment, Tangmao laughed very obscenely. Just kidding, just kidding. Miss AI22, do you want to make an appointment alone? How about I treat you to a delicious meal? However, AI22 was destined to not see Tangmao's big brother smile, but when she heard him treat her alone, AI22 was still very happy. At least Tangmao didn't say to invite Munugio to come together. You're smart. See you in the food court near Mingsu Academy in an hour. After hanging up the phone, AI22 happily went to wash and dress. More than half an hour later, after washing, AI22 chose a black cartoon print short sleeve top and ultra short denim shorts. Her fair and delicate skin and curvy curves are simply perfect. Especially the rabbits that are about to pop out are full of attraction. Looking at herself in the mirror, AI22 was stunned for a moment and wondered in her heart, why do I dress so carefully? She has always judged people by appearance, and she has no intention of paying attention to Tangmao, who can only be regarded as standard. But for Tangmao, who is not the kind of delicate and handsome, she has a deep memory. Even this kind of dress is inevitably a bit too much. However, she is a big-headed girl, so she was stunned for a moment and immediately stopped thinking about it. After all, she was born in a noble family. Although she was extremely pampered, she might be used for marriage in the future. So whether there is love or not, everyone is just playing a show. The future husband must be a good match. Tangmao arrived at the food street near Mingsu Academy on time in an hour. But after waiting for 20 minutes, AI22 still didn't show up. Feeling fooled, Tangmao was about to leave when he saw the big rabbit walking slowly towards him. His eyes were honest. When AI22 appeared, they stayed on the place where she was about to appear, especially when he saw the white in her thin and translucent black short-sleeved shirt. He couldn't help but feel itchy in his heart. He was so angry just now, and it intensified instantly. But Tangmao calmed down quickly. After all, AI22 is not the main course. P.S. Can you vote for the monthly ticket? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 38 Tangmao, the boss pays and she pays. AI22 also knew that she was late, but she couldn't be blamed for that. Girls have the right to be late. Noticing Tangmao's wolf eyes that were about to shine, she said shyly, "You bastard, where are you looking at? You dressed up so carefully, aren't you just for me to see?" Tangmao didn't hide it, but smiled. His eyes stayed on a certain place from beginning to end, as if there was only that in his eyes. HMPHAI22 was dissatisfied on the surface when she heard what Tangmao said, but she was extremely satisfied in her heart for some reason. She looked at Tangmao and said, "I thought you only saw the beauty of Sister Mu. She's not as good as you." AI22 heard Tangmao had nothing to say and threw the small bag in her hand directly. She, AI22, was not as beautiful as Munajiro, but she was also a top-notch beauty. But Tangmao just gave her a perfunctory compliment and that was it? Tangmao was not angry after being hit. After all, it didn't hurt looking at AI22 who was angry. He smiled and said, "Let's go. I'll take you to eat delicious food, and after dinner, we can talk about sharing a house. I have changed my mind now, and I don't plan to share a house with you." "Humph, don't." Tangmao paused, and then said, "We are even, okay? You still think I'm not handsome? At least I praised you." Hearing this, AI22 paused, and then burst into laughter. She didn't expect that it was because of this that the bastard didn't pay attention to her. After laughing for a while, AI22 said, okay, you are handsome, you are handsome, you are the most handsome." As she said that, AI22 found that Tangmao seemed to be a bit handsome. The whole person obviously looks bad, but she is still willing to contact him. In addition to the fact that she dressed up carefully today, AI22 hurriedly shook her head. "I always feel that my thoughts are quite dangerous and there is a possibility of giving it away for free." Tangmao also noticed that AI22 was not right, and then suddenly approached and said, "Big Rabbit, you are not in love with me, are you? Who likes you?" AI22 blushed, took a few steps back and retorted, Tangmao saw her like this, and he understood instantly. However, he did not continue to tease her, but said, "Let's go, fill your stomach first, and take you around here later." Although it is certain that AI22 is interested in him, who is Tangmao? Isn't it good to lay a long line to catch a big fish? AI22 is paired with Munijiro, buy one get one free. Moreover, if you don't attack two people at the same time, then you don't have to think about the other one, and this kind of seeing through but not saying it, occasionally joking, blurring it out is the best. You. Looking at Tangmao's appearance, AI22 always felt that he was fooled. It seems that he really has no interest in him. With the power of the wildness that she had been holding back in the morning, AI22 jumped onto Tangmao's back like a hungry tiger. Tangmao stretched her hands back and held her small round buttocks. Then she seemed to be a little uncomfortable and said, "What are you doing? Get down quickly." AI22, who was furious, didn't react at all. She had been taken advantage of. Instead, she strangled Tangmao's neck with both hands and said, "You stinky hooligan, I'm going to strangle you to death. You dare to hang up my phone and say that I can't see anything except rabbits, you bastard." The fight between the two naturally attracted the attention of many passers-by. After all, it was a huge food commercial street with a lot of traffic. A group of compatriots looked at AI22 behind Tangmao, and they were so envious. If TSK after a while of fighting, AI22 also felt that something was wrong, because Tangmao was really not polite when pinching her. AI22, who found something wrong, cried out tenderly and jumped off Tangmao's back immediately. With a shy face, she glared at Tangmao with gritted teeth. Tangmao said without blushing or beating her heart, "You beat me for a long time, what the hell did you scream at the end?" As if it wasn't him who just rubbed his buttocks. "You are shameless." Tangmao shrugged, "Didn't you always call me a stinky hooligan?" AI22 obviously didn't expect that she could still say that she was superior. Where did she get the face? She was so angry that she didn't know what to say besides, "It seems that you jumped up by yourself, right? I already said that I would treat you to a meal. Why do you always want to eat you for me?" After hearing what Tang Mao said, AI Tutu was almost about to bombard Tang Mao with magic. However, not to mention that they couldn't fight privately on the street, it was also a problem that they couldn't beat them. After teasing AI Tutu for a while, Tang Mao saw that it was good. Then he took her to find a barbecue place and a food stall. This kind of place was obviously the first time AI Tutu came. Although she didn't mind where to eat, it was the first time Tang Mao treated her to a meal, and this was it? A Tutu, who could no longer bear it, angrily said, "Tang Mao, you bastard, are you going to be perfunctory when you invite me for the first time?" Tang Mao waved his hand and then said, "You have never been to such a place, have you?" No. As a normal person, Tang Mao has always paid great attention to food and drink. Although this place is a bit of a bargain, the boss's cooking skills are indeed the best in the area. Then he said, "The barbecue here is the best in the area. You can try it when the skewers are ready. If they don't taste good, we will change places." A Tutu curled his lips in dissatisfaction, obviously not believing it. After the skewers came up, A Tutu tasted a bite. A few words "really delicious" directly summed up everything perfectly. Tang Mao also ate a skewer and drank a glass of cold beer and then said, "How is it? Isn't it delicious? Don't mention it, it's great." A Tutu swallowed the meat in his mouth and nodded. Tang Mao smiled and said, "I don't know what's good or bad about this great demon city, but as for food and drink, you can ask me if you need anything. I'm a gourmet. Whatever you eat, I need to keep in shape." Although AI Tutu said this, he had no intention of stopping when it came to finishing the food. Tang Mao looked disdainful, then said seriously, "Speaking of which, don't you have to live on campus for a period of time after enrollment to improve your performance? Why are you planning to rent a house?" AI Tutu also drank a glass of cold beer and then said, "I didn't say now I must stay in the college for a semester." Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly and he said unhappily, "What about next year? Why did you ask me out today?" AI Tutu said, "As a matter of course, shouldn't you treat me to a meal for this?" "Okay, I'll treat you to a meal, and you pay for the room." AI Tutu paused, then curled his lips. "Hey stinky hooligan, what are you thinking? It's always me, Tang Mao, who has been the prostitute for others. This is the first time you have pulled teeth from the tiger's mouth. You want to leave without paying a little?" At this moment, Tang Mao looked like a gangster, and it seemed that he didn't need to act and was just showing his true colors. But AI Tutu was not panicked at all and smiled sweetly. "My family are all soldiers. If you dare, I won't resist. Goodbye." Tang Mao was very upset. To be honest, he really couldn't afford to offend him now. Then he stood up and looked at the boss there and said, "Boss, check out, she'll pay." After saying that, Tang Mao left in 2 steps. Until Tang Mao disappeared from his sight, AI Tutu was completely dumbfounded. This was outrageous. Chapter 39. Tang Yu is it? 1 minute after Tang Mao left, AI Tutu's phone calls kept coming. But Tang Mao didn't answer any of them. This girl didn't succeed in getting a free ride. Who knows how angry she must be. Wouldn't it be stupid to answer her calls at this time? As for the roommate, it will take another semester. I'll see how the situation is then. Anyway, AI Tutu is interested in me, so she can't run away. If she runs away, it can only be said that God is not kind. The summer vacation is about to end in the blink of an eye. During this period, although Tang Mao has not made any new breakthroughs, but the control of the stars is becoming more and more proficient. When he finished practicing for a day and was about to rest, the phone rang again. Hearing this, Tang Mao paused, then glanced, and after seeing that it was not AI Tutu but Tang Yu, he hurriedly picked up the phone. Since that day, AI Tutu has been bombarding with calls every day. It almost never stopped. Tang Mao was a little helpless. This patient big rabbit. "Tang Mao, I found Cheohe, come and help me." After the call was connected, a mature and sexy voice came from the other end, which made people's ears feel comfortable. "Okay, wife, wait for me." Tang Mao, who was just worried about having nothing to do, suddenly became energetic. "Well, Call me when you get there. It seemed that, since that time in Bochum, Tang Yu didn't mind being addressed by Tang Mao. Or rather, he had made her feel safe. In addition, the two of them already had feelings for each other, so there was no need to delay. Okay, after hanging up the phone, Tang Mao first looked at the date. After confirming that it was not Tang Yu's relative, he ran to wash up. For Tang Yu, this was to catch a dangerous murderer. But for Tang Mao, this was the day he and Tang Yu would be together. As for Cheo He, or Thunderbolt would turn him into ashes in minutes. After Tang Mao arrived, Tang Yu came to pick him up. Looking at Tang Yu who came to pick him up, Tang Mao hugged her tightly for a while before saying, "You come to pick me up, so where can we find the Cheo He you mentioned?" Tang Yu was confused at the beginning, and only recovered after a moment. "Baby, it's a good thing I'm here. You've been tricked before we even fought." Tang Mao stroked the black hair beside her ears and held her little face and said, it was obvious that Tang Yu was tricked by Cheo He just like in the original novel. She was drugged. Tang Yu's face was ruddy, and she also realized something was wrong at this moment. She didn't notice it before, but after being teased by Tang Mao, the drug's effect was instantly stimulated. Only seeing Tang Yu lying softly in his arms, Tang Mao's heart was moved. However, he had to help her complete the task after all. Helplessly, Tang Mao had to input some ice power. After the cool feeling emerged, Tang Yu really felt much better. Tang Yu, whose breath was as fragrant as orchid, was stimulating Tang Mao's mental resistance all the time. Tang Mao wanted to take her to detoxify, and Tang Yu seemed to see Tang Mao's thoughts. She looked at Tang Mao pitifully and said, "No, we must first take down Cheo He." It took a lot of effort to find her. Tang Mao sighed slightly, and then said, "Okay, I know." However, although Tang Mao agreed, he did not take Tang Yu to find Cheo He directly. Instead, he went to a nearby pharmacy. Tang Yu saw that Tang Mao's route was wrong, and hurriedly said, he should go to find the spirit seed. "We went the wrong way." As she said that, she broke free and jumped down from Tang Mao's hand. However, because she was sore all over, if Tang Mao hadn't used space magic when she landed, she would have fallen directly to the ground. Tang Mao came over, hugged her in his arms again, and said, "Even if we want to catch him, we have to buy you some medicine to resist it first, right?" Tang Yu shook her head. Cheo He was a murderer, and although he was not as dangerous as the Black Church, he was also an unforgivable person, so it was not easy to get news about him, so naturally he could not be let go. Then he looked at Tang Mao pitifully. No, Mao, go catch him first." Although Tang Yu was about to lose her mind, she was stubborn from the bottom of her heart. Helplessly, Tang Mao could only agree. Then he called out Xiao Bei and rode Xiao Bei to the place Tang Yu said. On the way, he naturally scared a lot of people, but Tang Mao had no other way. Tang Yu was not honest and kept touching and biting all the way. He had to control it. Xiao Bei was not slow and soon found the coordinates of the place where Tang Yu said there might be spirit seeds, and it seemed that there was still a battle here. After Tang Mao took back Xiao Bei, he took Tang Yu to a tree. Looking down, the battle was over at this time, and the winners were naturally those people from the Danfang family. Just as the four were about to subdue the spirit seeds, a figure walked out. An ordinary baseball cap, a handsome face. After this man came out, the temperature of the chaotic air left after the magic battle actually dropped a few degrees. A chill penetrated the skin and pierced into the bone marrow. The breath of a strong man, the cold killing intent. This desperate man who looked like a scholar completely exposed his demonic violence at this moment, and his eyes scanned the four magicians of the Danfang family without any emotion. "Who are you? Do you want to steal things from my Danfang family?" One of the disciples of the Danfang family said angrily. The main reason was that they just fought hard and their magic power was running out. Otherwise, there would be no competition. Wouldn't it be better to just take action? "You haven't heard of my name, Cheo He." The desperado slowly took off the hat that covered half of his face and suddenly revealed an evil face. What was shocking was that there were obvious marks of being branded by a branding iron on his forehead. Most people with such marks have been sentenced to death by the trial. Cheo He, it's that murderer. Another young man from the Danfang family with his hair combed backwards said. Boom. At this moment, there was a thunder, and then Tang Mao appeared in the field. Looking at Tang Mao, who was covered in thunder, Chaohi and the 4 people from the Dangfang family were all stunned. Obviously, this was a wave of troubles. For the 4 people from the Dangfang family, it was obviously a nightmare. Chaohi was also confused. An intermediate 3rd level thunder mage. Moreover, the power of thunder was not easy to mess with. He knew someone was following him, but shouldn't it be a woman? Moreover, if nothing unexpected happened, the other party should have been hit. But how come a man appeared now? And he was a thunder mage? Question mark? Chaohi looked at Tang Mao with surprise and said, "Who are you?" The 4 people from the Dangfang family were relieved when they saw that Chaohi and Tang Mao didn't know each other. But they were a little worried. The other party shouldn't be a murderer, right? If so, they would still be in trouble. If not, maybe they would be saved. Chapter 40 This night, while the Dangfang family was in a daze, Tang Mao looked at Chaohi and said coldly, "The one who wants you dead." As soon as he finished speaking, thunder fell from the sky. As the thunder fell, Chaohi also made a move. A black thing slowly fell from a high place, like a black sticky spider web that had been arranged on it, and it was like the sticky claws of some creature slapped it down. The 4 people from the Dangfang family were all stunned, and then they turned around and ran without saying a word. This is a curse system. Chaohi ignored them, because the thunder just now almost smashed all the magic tools on his body. It was originally prepared for those idiots from the Dangfang family, but since you don't know what's good for you, then go to hell. The skills of the curse system have always been insidious and cunning, and it is hard to defend against, but Tang Mao has long known that this guy is a curse system. And he also knows that he has set a trap long ago. However, when he launched the skill, the ice layer nearby had already covered the entire land. Even the extremely powerful fire elemental power was completely frozen by the cold ice. The evil spider and the web that had just appeared turned into ice. Pa. After a series of snapping sounds, his trap was instantly destroyed. Purple sky. Thunderbolt. Wild dance. The lightning star map was still under his feet, and the extremely violent lightning power had already condensed above Chaohi's head. He wanted to escape, but his feet were frozen, and he didn't even have a chance to fight back. A huge thunder cloud was suspended, and the electric light like a python flashed and rolled in the cloud. As Tang Mao pointed, the thunder fell straight down. A semi-arc shield completely condensed by blue water appeared around Chaohi. Behind the water shield, Chaohi's face was distorted. He never expected that his curse system would be so cold. Just as he was about to resist this attack and run away, the violent deep purple thunder instantly penetrated his shield and fell directly on his body. Boom. Thunder descended, and the thick ice nearby was instantly shattered, and the ground cracked directly. With a boom sound, the cracked bottom of the reservoir was suddenly blown open at the place where the ice had just been broken, and a large burnt hole appeared. The underground fire that appeared here was not hidden deep. Often, this kind of elemental spirit will cause huge changes in the surrounding environment, which means that it has actually been exposed. After the big hole exploded, a wave of underground heat seemed to break through the shackles, turning into a pillar of flames that shot up into the sky. However, the flame that shot up into the sky, boiling on the ice surface that was emitting coldness everywhere by Tang Mao, was weak after a breath. Seeing that Chaohi was already cold, Tang Mao dispersed the ice domain, and then brought Tang Yu over to collect the rose flame. This is a spiritual fire worth 20 to 30 million yuan. Tang Yu already has it, so the rose flame naturally belongs to him. It is just when you are short of money, this is a timely help. Then, all the valuable things on Chaohi were looted by Tang Mao. Tang Yu was in a daze. She lost her mind after Chaohi died. Her little hands were like cat claws, scratching Tang Mao's restless heart from time to time. Tang Yu was in a daze. He kept whining in pain, which made Xiao Bei suffer. It was like a horse, running all the way. He was a tiger father, but he didn't expect that he would be in the same position as a horse now. Tang Mao tried his best to make Tang Yu comfortable along the way, but after all, he was outside. He couldn't let her get rid of the pain completely. Half an hour later, they finally arrived at Tang Yu's residence. Tang Mao didn't have time to recover Xiao Bei and took Tang Yu into the house. After being thrown here, Xiaobei was stunned and called a few times, and then he realized Tang Mao's recovery magic, and then he went into it and returned to his living space. In the house, after returning, Tang Mao began to detoxify Tang Yu. Although he had thought of countless scenes of the two taking that step, this was really beyond his imagination. No, I really loved Jua, how can I take advantage of her? He muttered. Men's words are really deceiving. People are always like this, they want to do something, but they still pretend to be a fool. Even Tang Mao is the same. It's obvious that he just needs to detoxify, but until Tang Yu recovered, he actually, although he is not a rookie, his body in this life is still quite honest. Fortunately, Tang Yu didn't know, otherwise, it would be terrible. I can't get by in the future. The next day, the sun was scorching in the sky, and Tang Yu, who was hugged tightly, slowly opened her eyelids that seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. She fumbled around in a daze, and after finding her phone, she opened it and found that it was almost 1 o'clock. She wanted to get up immediately. After all, she still needed to report Chaohi's affairs. This was also the only thing she remembered before she fell into a coma. Oh. However, she realized something was wrong when she moved. Looking down, Tang Yu spat softly, "Bad guy." Then she moved away from here and stopped looking at him. After leaving, she realized what the evil of society was. She didn't even know how she insisted on reaching the bathroom. At the same time, Tang Yu secretly felt lucky that she was not deceived by Tang Mao when she awakened magic. Otherwise, she would be left with a shadow, right? Chapter 41 Visiting West Lake. Thanks, why am I so poor? Reward 10,500 book coins. The killer who has no feelings like a dove rewarded 1,500 book coins. Thanks to Zuhuan for the reward. Thanks to Zinkingdu and Ao for the reward. And thanks to everyone for the monthly ticket. Tang Yu, who had washed up, changed into a thin dark red dress. She came to the mirror and looked at herself in the mirror. She was plump and exquisite, like a ripe peach, exuding a faint charm. Her long black hair casually fell from her shoulders and vertically between her slender waist. She looked up slightly, as if she was very satisfied. Her narrow and slightly lazy eyes were full of enchantment and charming. In addition, she had received nutritional supplements last night, and her whole person had changed a lot. Just when Tang Yu was looking at the mirror beautifully, Tang Mao appeared here without knowing when. Hate just standing next to her made Tang Yu feel a little strange. After saying a shy word, Tang Yu pushed Tang Mao away. Tang Yu, who had already reported her work, had nothing to do in the next few days. She looked at Tang Mao and said softly, "Go wash up, let's go out for a walk. But, I want to explore some unknown areas with you." After being pushed away, Tang Mao clung to her like a dogskin plaster, looking like she was getting more and more demanding. Tang Yu said shyly, "Because of the arrest of Chaohi this time, I will rest for more than 10 days, okay? I'll go wash up, and then go out." Tang Yu was simply telling Tang Mao, "I have more than 10 days, are you going to spend it with me like this?" Tang Mao is not a fool. If he said that was it, Tang Yu might not be angry, but she would definitely be a little disappointed. For this kind of thing, Tang Mao knew what to do without even thinking about it. Besides, it would be nice to go out for a walk, for example, go buy some clothes, go to the fitting room, go to the movies, or go to the park in the dead of night. Thinking about the route he planned, Tang Mao quickly finished washing up. When he came out, he was bombarded with phone calls from AI22 again. He was quite impressed by this. He cheated her out of a meal, which was completely remembered by the big rabbit. At that moment, Tang Mao directly saved her in the blacklist. The bombardment of phone calls ended, and after packing up, the two left the apartment. When the two came out, it was a time when the sun was showing its power. Fortunately, Tang Mao blocked a piece of sunshade ice, so that Tang Yu did not feel the ill will of the scorching sun. However, although it is very comfortable, it is somewhat extravagant. Looking at Tang Mao, who was hugging her, he whispered, "Don't you know how to save some magic energy? If I don't do this, can you still be so close to me?" Tang Yu said helplessly, "We are almost conjoined twins." Tang Mao smiled evilly and said, "That's great, and I want to stick to you for the rest of my life." As he said that, he let go and made a gesture. Although it was quite simple, Tang Yu understood it immediately. A blush appeared on her charming and enchanting oval face. She patted Tang Mao lightly and spat softly. Tang Mao didn't care, but when he was about to hug Tang Yu suddenly dodged and ran several meters away. Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly, looking at Tang Yu in the distance, and said dissatisfiedly, "How dare you say that I waste my magic energy?" Tang Yu snorted and then complained, "We have been out for half an hour and I haven't walked the 5-minute distance I usually walk. Are we going to visit West Lake? Okay, my fault." While admitting his mistake, Tang Mao sped up. After coming to Tang Yu, he reached out and held her hand. Then he said, "Even so, you can't leave me." Tang Yu said helplessly, "Let's go, I'm hungry. Or should I call Xiaobei to come out to walk?" "No." Tang Yu refused without thinking. Even if the two of them walked on foot, Tang Mao was extremely restless. If she let Xiaobei walk again, her luggage would not be perfect as before. After Tang Yu's complaints, Tang Mao didn't stop talking, but her hands were much more honest. After finding a well-received restaurant and having a delicious meal, the two headed for the West Lake. Although he was born in Hangzhou in this life, he had never made a special trip to visit the West Lake. Walking along the West Lake, there are many people scattered here, men, women, young and old, and there are countless people who bring their children out to travel during the summer vacation. Beside the weeping willows, the reflection of the lake, the scenery is picturesque, the steps are like lotus, the figure is like willow. This beauty on the broken bridge in the snow is actually more outstanding than this scenery, but with his wife by his side, how dare he be proud? Along the way, Tang Yu may really be appreciating the scenery, and Tang Mao, in addition to looking at the white long legs on the road, is staring at Tang Yu intently. The feeling of breaking through and not breaking through seems to be really different. Oh, Tang Yu is not really appreciating the beauty. After all, Tang Mao's cannibalistic eyes are not concealed. How can she calm down and appreciate the beauty of the West Lake? Hearing Tang Yu's coquettish words, Tang Mao pretended not to know. "Baby, what's wrong?" Tang Yu said angrily, "Can't you have something else in your mind? They have been together for so long, and it seems that no matter what time, Tang Mao is thinking about how to bully her. Can't they just go out and have fun like normal couples?" "What are you talking about? Why don't I understand?" Tang Mao asked, while holding Tang Yu's jade hand, and walked towards the nearby woods. Tang Yu was about to laugh in anger. Tang Mao seemed to be perfunctory about this topic every time. But he obviously saw through it, but he just didn't admit it. Because of his anger, Tang Yu, who was being dragged away, didn't notice that the people around him had gradually become sparse. After Tang Yu complained a few words, she also realized that something was wrong. It seemed that there were not many people here, and there was a thick tree in front of her. Looking at the West Lake next to this thick tree, Tang Mao suddenly felt that the beauty of the West Lake was well deserved. "Baby, West Lake is really beautiful. Can we play here for a while longer?" Although Tang Mao's voice has changed a little, from his tone, it can be heard that he really likes this place. Tang Yu's breath was a little confused, and she shook her head and said, "No. What a joke. How can you stay in a place like this forever? PS. Read it, vote for the monthly ticket, and it will be updated on the shelf. It is not a dream to publish 10,000 copies a day. Finally, thank you for your support." Chapter 42 West Lake Cave. Although Tang Yu said no and had refused, Tang Mao was completely arrogant in his domain. So in the end, Tang Yu chose to stay with Tang Mao for a while. After staying for a long time, Tang Yu found that the scenery here was indeed unusually beautiful. Beautiful scenery plus beautiful women. This is life. The two chatted casually and stayed here until it got dark. When a couple took over the territory, they left. After all, West Lake is not their home, so naturally they can't occupy such a good place all the time. Originally, Tang Mao was going to stay here to see what the couple would talk about, but Tang Yu said no with a resolute attitude and didn't say anything nonsense. Once the shadow magic was cast, he took Tang Mao away directly. After leaving the forest, Tang Mao was no longer the boss of the sky, and he was the second, but followed Tang Yu happily, obedient in various ways. There was no way. This was not the place for him to cast his domain, and he couldn't stand up at all. If he wanted to, Tang Yu was angry, but it was only for a while. Before she even left the West Lake, Tang Mao was teasing her in various ways, trying to make her laugh. After leaving the West Lake, Tang Yu said dissatisfiedly, "Look, it's all because of you. We haven't even finished touring the West Lake, and it's already dark." Although we didn't finish touring the West Lake, didn't we also have deep memories of the West Lake? Tang Mao said nonchalantly, but it seemed that something was not right, so he added, "Besides, no beautiful scenery is as beautiful as you. Just looking at you has made me lose interest in the scenery of the whole world." Bah. Tang Yu looked at her with disdain and snorted, "When I'm old and ugly, I will believe you, if you still say that. Don't worry, even if you are in your 70s or 80s, with yellow teeth and bad breath, I will not despise you." Tang Yu was displeased for a while, thinking about what Tang Mao said. "I feel like I might as well die. Pa, aren't you disgusting? You have yellow teeth and bad breath." Seeing Tang Yu's unacceptable look, Tang Mao smiled and said, "Everyone will get old. No matter how you maintain your young skin, it will only last for a few decades." Tang Yu was silent for a moment, then looked at Tang Mao and asked seriously, "Will you still love me when I'm old decades later?" Tang Mao nodded and said, "I raised you since you were a child. When you are old, I will accompany you to find a quiet place and live in seclusion for the rest of your life." Pa Tang Yu was unhappy when she heard Tang Mao say that he raised her. After all, who raises who, don't you know? Tang Yu took Tang Mao's arm and leaned her head on Tang Mao's arm like a little girl, and Tang Mao was naturally willing to enjoy this feeling. The two of them were walking on the road, and Tang Mao also chatted with Tang Yu seriously. Regarding the change of Tang Mao before and after, Tang Yu complained helplessly while tidying up her black hair, "Really, I have to feed you first before we can have a good chat?" Tang Mao looked at the beauty beside her and said with a bitter face, "Sister, I'm 18 years old. Do you know how I have been through these years?" Tang Yu is not a child anymore, and she is older than Tang Mao. She didn't understand what Tang Mao meant. Suddenly, she thought that Tang Mao had been able to endure it before, which was indeed a very firm will. Tang Yu stopped and looked at Tang Mao in confusion. "I was obviously by your side. Why did you endure it? Although my brother is a little shameless, his love for you is also sincere. So, unless you are willing, I will not touch you." Tang Mao said seriously. The most important thing is that when Tang Yu was charming and mature, she had already learned magic. How dare he not be firm in his will? After all, they have lived together for more than 10 years. How could Tang Yu believe this? She said, "But, I was also infected this time. Why didn't you buy me the inhibitor? I was afraid of its side effects. Besides, didn't you agree when we were in Bo City?" "Yes. I didn't give it to you before, not because I didn't love you. I was just afraid that you didn't cherish me. But that time, even though there were demons everywhere, you still came to save me. I knew I was overthinking." Tang Yu said, and took the initiative to offer her sweet lips. After a light peck, she said, "I didn't expect that you could protect me in just a few years after your magic awakening." Tang Mao rarely smiled frivolously. He looked at Tang Yu seriously and said, "In my heart, you will always be the most important." After a confession, when they went back, Tang Yu was a little puzzled and said, "By the way, Mao, how did you find me in time in Bo City?" She had never had time to ask about this matter or just forgot about it. Now she remembered it when she was in Bo City, so Tang Yu asked about it. Tang Mao paused, hesitated for a while, and then took out her treasured things. When Tang Yu saw the familiar item that Tang Mao took out, she was immediately ashamed and angry. She slapped Tang Mao, turned around and left angrily. However, the item that belonged to her was not taken away after all. Tang Mao rubbed his head, looked at the graceful figure, especially the upturned place, and muttered to himself, "I'm also a normal man. PS. Thank you for the reward, monthly ticket. Please give me the monthly ticket and read on." Chapter 43 Leaving. After returning home that night, Tang Mao felt offended and didn't get any respect at all. Instead, He was often despised. Tang Yu didn't despise him when he was being oppressed, but she looked disgusted the rest of the time. This continued until today when Tang Yu was wearing clothes and still gave him a loving look. After you go back, just practice in the academy with peace of mind. Don't run around all the time. I'll come to see you when I have time. When sending Tang Mao to the car, Tang Yu seemed to be an ordinary old mother instead of a daughter-in-law, constantly admonishing him. Pa Tang Mao was a little impatient and immediately slapped her on the buttocks. Sure enough, after this loud slap, Tang Yu instantly became much more obedient. However, her charming and beautiful eyes were full of resentment, and there was a little grievance. I'm not a child anymore, and you're my wife. Tang Mao felt it necessary to make this clear. Puff hearing this, Tang Yu suddenly laughed. Just now she was like a complaining woman, but now she was so happy. After watching the ticket checking, Tang Yu said shyly, I didn't say I'm not your wife. Tang Mao paused after hearing this. Although Tang Yu admitted it more than once in these days. But that was when she was without clothes, which was quite sudden. Tang Mao was stunned for a moment, then he hugged Tang Yu and said with a smile, how about I go back tomorrow? Tang Mao hugged her tightly, and Tang Yu said shyly, don't make trouble, let me go. There are so many passengers going to Mingsu City. Please check your tickets. At this time, the loudspeaker also broadcast the ticket checking and entry. Tang Mao could only peck Tang Yu's red lips reluctantly, and then turned and left here. Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao who was leaving, and was also a little reluctant. But this was the path Tang Mao chose, and she couldn't stop it. After Tang Yu sent Tang Mao into the station, she turned around and walked out of the station. However, the charming little woman's appearance just now had completely disappeared at this time. Many people who wanted to chat up with her gave way. After getting on the bus, Tang Mao turned on his phone and thought of AI Tutu in the small dark room. Because school was about to start, Tang Mao decided to let her out. After pulling her out, he called her directly. It's been so long, it's time to get intimate. Oh, let's get in touch. Beep beep beep. After a while of waiting, the phone was connected, and she said hello, as if she hadn't woken up yet. Looking at the time, AI Tutu was still sleeping, so there was nothing strange about it. Big Rabbit, school is about to start. Do you want to go out for a date? After about 10 seconds of silence on the other end of the phone, a roar came. Tang Mao. Fortunately, he had self-awareness and pulled the phone away a certain distance in advance. However, because he forgot to adjust the direction, he scared a buddy next to him who was squinting and resting. Tang Mao smiled apologetically, and the buddy next to him just cursed him as a psychopath. Because there were not many people in the car, he got up and walked to the back seat. You bastard, hooligan, scoundrel. And on the phone, AI Tutu's image of a lady that she had accumulated over the years probably collapsed at this moment. Right? Speak. Seeing that she had almost vented her anger, Tang Mao took back his hand, put the phone next to his ear, and said in a mean way, isn't it just asking you to treat me to a meal? Is it necessary to be so angry? You, the beautiful AI, are short of a meal? This is about a meal? Hearing this, AI Tutu almost threw the phone. If Tang Mao was in front of her now, she would definitely have no doubt that she would pounce on her and bite her. No. After so much reflection, I think it is necessary to ask the beautiful AI to come out and make up for the damage that day. I just don't know if the beautiful AI will give me the face. This kind of mean feeling is not his nature, but these days, he has no capital to be proud, so he can only spend his time with the five-fingered girl. HMPH no. AI Tutu refused directly. Just kidding. He was rejected for so long. How could AI Tutu be asked out with just one phone call? Oh, okay, bye. Tang Mao hung up the phone right after she finished speaking. At this moment, in AI Tutu's room, she was looking at her phone stupidly and was about to pick it up and throw it when suddenly the phone rang again. AI Tutu held back her explosive mentality and picked up the phone to answer the call. She immediately said angrily, Tang Mao, are you sick? Beep beep beep. With AI Tutu's words, the phone was hung up again. AI Tutu's mouth twitched slightly and he stood up, shaking the rabbit and throwing the pillow for a while, muttering from time to time, damn it, bastard. You dare to hang up on me, I will never answer if you call again. At the same time, the incoming call music sounded. AI Tutu instinctively picked up the phone and answered it. Beautiful AI, you have rejected me twice. You are not going to reject me for the third time, are you? Hearing what Tang Mao said, AI Tutu was a little angry and said, did I reject you? You just hung up the phone yourself, okay. So, you agreed? It just so happens that school starts tomorrow. See you at Mingsu Academy then. Tang Mao hung up the phone again without even giving her the right to refuse. After hanging up the phone, Tang Mao stretched his waist comfortably. As for whether AI Tutu would get angry and throw her phone or something, whether she would bite him when she saw him tomorrow, that would be a matter for the future. Now he was too lazy to care about these. After Tang Mao hung up the phone, he looked up at a girl with glasses sitting opposite him. She opened her lips slightly and seemed to silently spit out 2 words, scumbag. Just bored, Tang Mao said, beauty, are you going to school in Mingsu City? Seeing that the other person was about the same age as him and had magical energy, he thought he should also be a mage. Although she wore glasses, her skin was delicate and smooth, especially the slightly raised small chest, which gave him a sense of freshness. After all, if you see too many big ones, that's all. When the girl with glasses saw Tang Mao talking to her, she said with disdain, I got on the bus after you. Tang Mao's mouth twitched. Wasn't this just telling him that I also saw you, and the charming queen being affectionate? Although he was despised, he still chatted with her all the way. Although the girl didn't meet the conditions for being a scumbag, it was not bad to have a pure girl to chat with along the way to kill time. However, although Tang Mao was very good at flirting, the girl with glasses was always perfunctory. It was as if he was staring at her. It has to be said that these days, the most basic trust between people is so shallow. PS. 41 made a mistake and went to the small black room. Exclamation mark. Chapter 44 New semester. Thanks, I have wine. Do you have a story? Reward 1500 book coins. Thanks, Doomsday Red. Fengchen's new IE for the reward. Thanks for the monthly ticket. After arriving at the station, Tang Mao first went back to his nest to rest for a day. Then he went to Kingshan hunting house, but there was still no commission they could take. After teasing Ling Ling for a while and having a lunch, Tang Mao left. This time he got the spirit fire Meiyan, as well as some of Cheohe's property. Although he was only a mid-level magician, the criminal's background should not be underestimated. There were quite a few messy magic tools alone, but most of them were elementary and a few mid-level ones. But even so, after packing Meiyan, Tang Mao still got more than 50 million startup funds. Looking at the balance in the card, Tang Mao muttered, it seems that money is not too difficult to make. Of course, after he walked around the magic resource store, this idea disappeared instantly. This little money is not enough for even a high-level sprint resource. The next day, the new semester has begun, and the King campus of Mingsu Academy has recruited many new students. Tang Mao also met AI Tutu and Munijiro. However, AI Tutu did not fight to the death as he expected. It seems that, because she just arrived, she wants to leave a good impression in the academy. However, in Tang Mao's opinion, she is totally overthinking. Not to mention the main campus of Mingsu, there are tens of thousands of people in the King campus alone. He is the only exception, who was directly recruited by the dean to the main campus. And this time, some students who were not practicing in the school before, those who should participate in the graduation assessment, and those who have joined some forces and families, have all come here. Even Tang Mao found that the main campus of the Thunder Academy is not really short of people. It's just that there are few people in the academy because of the explosive output. Some of the older seniors and seniors have reached a high level. However, they were leaving the academy eventually. Moreover, even though they knew that Tang Mao had surpassed his level in 2 battles and remained the first in Lei Academy, no one came to challenge him. One reason was that they were about to graduate, and the other was because of the age difference. Tang Mao was the same age as the freshman, so how could they dare to challenge him? The invitations from various families were no longer as numerous as before. It was as if he had been forgotten. After the opening ceremony, Tang Mao took Munujio and AI Tutu for a stroll. Mingsu Academy was very big, and he had never been to the King campus. He took them around and got to know the way by the way. AI Tutor looked at the freshmen nearby. When he looked at them, his eyes were mostly on Munigio or her rabbit. He said with a little pride, Tang Mao, you are not very famous. It seems that not many people in this school know you. Tang Mao said disapprovingly, I have never been to the King campus. Even if there are some students who entered school with me, they are not talented enough. They have no chance to know me. Seeing Tang Mao pretending to be stupid, AI Tutu said poo with an unhappy look. Munigio, who had been silent all the time, said, you are so arrogant, is it really okay? Munigio did not forget the explanation of her family before. For a pervert like this, since you know him, you should try your best to win him over. Tang Mao did not have any big forces to support him. It was okay at the middle level, but if there was no big force to support him in the future high level and super level, then there would definitely be a gap. So Munigio couldn't help but speak after listening to what Tang Mao said. In her opinion, without the support of a big force, it would be a huge threshold for Tang Mao to advance to the higher level. Although the children of these noble families were not as talented as him, at that time, it was the best opportunity to surpass him. Since the Thunder system was upgraded to the intermediate level 3, Tang Mao already felt that he was absolutely the father level in the school. If you speak with strength, you must be a little arrogant. Otherwise, why would I practice so hard? Munigio curled her lips and said, don't you think about the future? It may not be smooth sailing to break through from the intermediate level to the high level just by talent. Tang Mao stopped, looked back at Munigio who was mocked, licked his lips and said, do you want to recruit me? Munigio did not hide it and said bluntly, I think there is no noble family or any force that does not want to recruit you now, right? So honest. Tang Mao smiled. Munigio raised the corner of her mouth and smiled. Will lying be useful? Since you are so honest, how about I give you a chance? Tang Mao said, after thinking for a while. Munigio and AI Tutor looked at Tang Mao at the same time, and seemed to be very curious about what this so-called opportunity was. In fact, both AI Tutor and Munigio were guessing that Tang Mao's opportunity was nothing more than to get Munigio. We are all magicians, let's have a competition. If you win, I will join the Mu family. If you lose, you will be responsible for my food for 3 years. After Tang Mao finished speaking, both women were stunned. AI Tutu even cursed, you are shameless. Although Sister Mu is very strong, how can she be your opponent? Munigio still has some self-knowledge. Fighting with Tang Mao? She can be sure that she will not have any chance of winning. What's the hurry? I haven't finished talking yet. Tang Mao smiled and waved his hand and said, what I mean is that we compete, and I defend your attack. As long as you can attack my clothes before running out of magic power, you win. What do you think? Do you dare? Although Tang Mao is very powerful, Munigio is not bad either. Not only is her talent not bad, but she also has the support of the Mu family behind her. Now her wind system and plant system are already intermediate. In this case, Tang Mao only defends. How can she not touch him? Munigio's beautiful eyes flashed with anger, and she suppressed her displeasure and said, do you mean what you said? Of course, but you have to think it through. Be responsible for my 3 meals a day for 3 years. To be frank, be my maid for 3 years. 3 years is 3 years. Looking at Tang Mao's confident look, Munigio felt that she might not be able to win. But, isn't this an opportunity? And isn't it just like sharing a house for 3 years? Then, if AI Tutu is brought in, everything will be okay. AI Tutu was stunned on the side. She didn't expect that she hadn't mentioned the sharing of the house yet. Tang Mao, this arrogant man, is actually a big deal. However, she was actually a little puzzled in her heart. Because if Munigio really won, then this stinky hooligan is the man of her good sister. For a moment, AI Tutu was a little puzzled. It has come to this, and the opportunity cannot be missed. Looking at the two women, she said, come with me, I'll take you to the trial field. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 45. 3 Years of Maid. After Tangmao brought Munigyo and the other two girls to a magic duel venue, he turned back and reminded them, "You have to think about it. If you lose, you have to be my maid for 3 years." His kind reminder had no effect on Munigyo. "Seeing that you are so confident, maybe I'm unlikely to win. But even so, I have to try. After all, there are not many such opportunities. Also, you have to promise me one thing. You can't force me to do something I don't want to do." Although Munigyo was very confident, she still thought about the consequences of failure in advance. She didn't want to lose her virginity because of a duel. Of course, in fact, she didn't think Tangmao would agree to the last request, but she still said it. As for whether she agreed or not, she needed to cherish this opportunity. Tangmao shrugged and smiled. "Don't worry, although I like beautiful women, I won't force them." Forced or something, there is no such thing. In 3 years, Tangmao has the confidence to tame her wildness. Hearing that Tangmao agreed, Munigyo was stunned for a moment, and then walked to the opposite side. It seemed like she was relieved. It seems that she is not the kind of person who is really willing to give everything for the family. Looking at her carefully, her calm and noble temperament gives people a feeling that she can only be admired from a distance, especially her bright eyes like the moon, which project a sharpness not as gentle as her appearance. But at the same time, it is easier to make people itch. As the referee, AI-Tutor saw that the two were ready, and then he said, "Begin." As AI-Tutor finished speaking, the storm element flew freely on Munigyo's body. Similarly, Tangmao's ice field unfolded, and the ground was formed into a thick layer of ice in an instant. It was the same where Munigyo was. Munigyo, who was still aggressive just now, found that Tangmao did not attack her after feeling the rapid drop in temperature, but she was so cold that she could not connect to the star map. Question mark? As for the whirlwind around her, it dissipated instantly. AI-Tutu, who was outside the field, felt the horror of this ice element. With her mouth slightly open, she muttered in disbelief, "This is just the minor training of a stinky hooligan." In the field, Munigyo had already used defensive magic tools, and she also quickly released attacks. The plant system lost its effect in this thick ice layer. Therefore, the only attack she could make was the wind system. With Munigyo's proud figure as the center, the high-speed rotating airflow quickly formed a storm under the intensification of the blue wind star map. Wind disk. Tornado. Then, Munigyo solemnly uttered the name of this wind spell from her lips. The dragon scroll coiled around the ground and soared up. The wind was invisible and colorless, but the field was full of painful airflow. If you feel a little unstable, you will be sucked over alive and become a humble grass, swaying and torn at will. But the moment the strong wind blew, a thick ice wall suddenly appeared in front of Tangmao. It was only after the wind force was offset that it completely dissipated. Tangmao still stood there, not moving at all. This power is not enough. Do you have any special skills? If not, then admit defeat. Although she only released one skill, it has already consumed most of her energy. After all, it takes magic energy to resist the domain. Munigyo was very unwilling. They didn't even fight. But, she lost at the beginning? Question mark? I lost, although she was reluctant to admit it. This was a fact. In Tangmao's domain, she didn't even have a chance to attack. Moreover, the ice system with Soul Seed suppressed not only the fire system. The moment Munigyo finished speaking, the ice attribute power emitted by Tangmao dissipated instantly. Fortunately, it didn't last long, and she had defensive magic tools, so she didn't get frostbitten. After the domain dissipated, AI-Tutu trotted over. It was obviously a distance of 100 steps, but Tangmao felt like it was 10 steps, which was not satisfying at all. AI-Tutu held Munigyo, who was shivering from the cold, and looked at Tangmao and cursed, "Hey, you stinky rascal, don't you know how to be gentle with women?" Tangmao paused, then walked over, opened his arms, and looked at Munigyo and said, "Then I will warm you up." Munigyo's pale face flushed slightly, and shook her head and said, "No need." AI22 said with contempt. Don't be so ungrateful. You have to treat us to a big meal, and you pay the bill. At the end, AI22 almost gritted his teeth. The food in the cafeteria of Mingsu Academy is actually delicious. Looking at AI22 who was trembling and about to explode, Tang Mao changed his words and said, however, there is a good hot pot restaurant nearby, which is just right to warm up, and can also drive away the cold. Why don't we go there to eat? AI22 snorted lightly, looking like this was not so bad. And Munijiro, at this time, had no reason to refuse except to follow. After all, AI22's body was really warm, especially the upper body, which was just like a hot pack. When leaving the venue, Munijiro, who looked delicate along the way, attracted a lot of attention. Even a few freshmen were very unhappy when they saw Tang Mao walking out with them. There were even a few children from aristocratic families who took the initiative to provoke, but after Tang Mao stunned one of them with a thunderbolt, they didn't come to seek excitement again. For a ruthless person like Tang Mao, the two girls were also full of black lines. You know, private magic fighting is prohibited in the academy. Mingsu Academy is also a high-end academy. Even some children from aristocratic families who are domineering. They dare not take action here, but they didn't expect Tang Mao to be so reckless. However, this is indeed the simplest way. Because of this, no one came to make trouble again. Tang Mao didn't really ignore the school rules. He still had a limit when he took action. Otherwise, the other party would not just be paralyzed. Because of this, he didn't worry about Dean Zio causing trouble for him. After leaving the academy, they came to a hot pot restaurant. AI22 looked like a big shot who was cheating people, which made Tang Mao stunned. When ordering dishes, he only wanted the expensive ones, not the cheap ones. Moreover, during the meal, AI22 deliberately sat next to Tang Mao. It was to block his way out and prevent him from running away. Although the money last time was nothing, he invited her to dinner and asked her to pay in the end. The most hateful thing was that Tang Mao really abandoned her and didn't care about her, which made AI22 very angry. Tang Mao didn't plan to run away, but AI22 sat next to her, so Tang Mao didn't refuse. At least he could feel her softness. AI22 regretted it after sitting down. She never thought that Munijiro was sitting opposite her and this gangster dared to take advantage of her. Although it seemed unintentional, she was not stupid. But she took the initiative to sit here. Apart from staring at Tang Mao with fierce eyes, she didn't have any temper. PS. Please reward and monthly ticket. Chapter 46 White Lies. PS. Thank you Wagana for the 2000 book coins reward, and thank you for the monthly ticket. Thank you, the killer who has no feelings for 500 book coins reward. Thank you Zuhuan for the reward. Enjoying delicious food and feeling soft. Life is so wonderful. As for the cost of this meal, it is nothing for Tang Mao. After all, he is now the kind of person who has no big money, but not small money. Although AI22 ordered a lot of food, he was very weak when eating. Munijiro ate in small bites, and the two of them together did not eat half as much as Tang Mao. After eating and drinking, the two girls went back to school. As for Tang Mao, if it were normal, he would not go back to school. In addition to receiving training resources and entering the 3-step tower, Tang Mao usually did not stay in school. But today is different. Today is not just to send the girl back, but more importantly, he needs to enter the 3-step tower again. Strive to improve the strength of the ice system to the intermediate level 3. The summoning system can now be contracted, and it just so happens that Killer New gave a hint that there is a totem sacred beast white tiger in Shianshan, so he can definitely go and collect a white tiger contract. By then, his strength will definitely be even more powerful. Of course, since Shianshan is known as a dangerous place, if he wants to enter it, he naturally cannot go alone. At that time, let alone anything else, the toolman Zuansh must be brought along. Damn one hooligan, didn't you just say that you don't usually go to school? Why are you going back with us? AI22 had already hidden far away from Tang Mao at this time, but she was not worried about being taken advantage of. The little witch's personality recovered again. Munijiro was also a little curious. Why did Tang Mao come back with him? Is he interested in her? It's not that she is narcissistic. After all, Her own conditions are perfect. Although she is not as outstanding as AI-Tutu in some places, overall, she is much better than AI-Tutu. Seeing the two girls looking at him, waiting for an answer, Tang Mao shrugged and said, I came back because I wanted to see Dean Zaro. You two don't think I came back because of you, do you? Mu Nigio and the other girl didn't want to chat with him anymore. After all, what are they talking about? After arriving at the academy, the two of them went to the female dormitory, while Tang Mao went to Dean Zaro's office. Before entering the 3-step tower, it is natural to report. Moreover, this old man looks weak, but his strength should not be underestimated. Although he has a black snake covering him, it is not bad to have a few more big guys behind him to help him. So when he is free, Tang Mao is still willing to get along well with Dean Zaro and Old Man Bayo. Just when he was about to arrive at Dean Zaro's office, a very handsome man came not far away. The man had slightly permed curly semi-long hair, a standard prince face from a fairy tale, and a simple pure white sportswear. This bitch face was almost as handsome as his own. Next to this guy was the guy who was paralyzed by his thunderbolt when he was causing trouble before. You must be Tang Mao, right? The man walked over, looked at Tang Mao and said, let me introduce myself. My name is Zhao Manayan, majoring in light. Zhao Manayan smiled warmly and looked very friendly. He didn't mean to stand up for his younger brother at all. Zhao Manayan? Tang Mao muttered, thinking that it was this slutty pig. He smiled and said, I thought you were standing up for this scumbag. The man next to Zhao Manayan, who was now numb all over, didn't mean to refute Tang Mao's ridicule. Zhao Manayan shook his head and said, he is just ignorant. Besides, I'm a light type, and I'm here to challenge the number one in the Thunder Academy. Isn't that stupid? Tang Mao had no aversion to Zhao Manayan, the tortoiseshell mage. Moreover, he didn't expect that a random thunderbolt would strike out a member of the Zhao family. Since it's not revenge, I'll leave first. Zhao Manayan smiled and nodded. After Tang Mao left, he looked at the people around him and said, even my father said that he wanted to recruit him. Even if he can't recruit him, there is no need to offend him. He has a relationship with the Tang family of the tribunal. You blind bastard, are you looking for a beating? The man who was beaten had a tragic face, but he didn't dare to refute it. Although some noble families are very arrogant, if they have connections with the tribunal behind them, they dare not offend them easily, unless they are top noble families. Even if they are top noble families, there is no need to offend them, right? Of course, unless those noble families have someone in the tribunal. But the Zhao family is not like that. Their family is engaged in business. Tang Mao didn't care too much. After parting with Zhao Manayan and the others, he found Dean Zaro. Dean Zaro also gave Tang Mao a symbolic lesson about what he had done on campus before. Tang Mao nodded and admitted his mistake like a good boy. In the end, the matter naturally ended, and then he was allowed to enter the 3-step tower in advance. The reason was naturally because Tang Mao was going to practice. Although Dean Zaro thought it was too early for Tang Mao to practice, he saw that he was determined to go, so he didn't say anything. However, Dean Zaro still reminded him that with his talent and strength, he should keep a low profile when going out. In fact, Mingsu Academy doesn't care about these, but Tang Mao is different. When it comes to the world government competition held every 4 years, he is looking forward to Tang Mao's face. Tang Mao naturally accepted Dean Zaro's kind reminder humbly. After accepting Dean Zaro's guidance, Tang Mao came to the 3-step tower. Who would have thought that this opportunity to practice in the 3-step tower, which others would be eager for, is like the back garden of his home for Tang Mao. Come whenever you want. When the training started, time flew by. Especially when the training speed increased, Tang Mao felt that these 7 days were just a moment. When the time was up, he still couldn't break through the 3rd level of the intermediate ice system. After leaving the tower, Tang Mao and Dean Zaro took a long vacation and left the Pearl Academy directly. Of course, after coming out, Tang Mao also called Tang Yu, but he didn't say that he was going to Xianshan, but just said that he wanted to find a quiet place to calmly understand his Thunderfield. Tang Yu didn't have any doubts about this. After all, Tang Mao had said before that when the thunder system reached the third level of the intermediate level, the thunder field seemed to be strengthened a lot and had a lot of changes. It seems that it has never been thoroughly studied. After explaining it to Tang Yu, Tang Mao went to Qingshan hunting house to report. Old man Bao didn't have any opinions. It's a good thing that Tang Mao can become stronger. But Ling Ling was a little miserable. After all, if Tang Mao didn't come for a few months, she would be miserable, especially now that school has started. But even the little Lalita's resentment did not make Tang Mao give up the trip to Xianshan. This can be regarded as his white lie. He really wanted to take her with him. After all, she is an encyclopedia. However, with his current strength, it is really inappropriate. There are no fewer monarchs in a forbidden place like Xianshan, and no one can be sure whether there will be stronger ones. It is difficult for Zuan Snake to protect himself, so isn't it even more difficult to protect a little girl who has not awakened magic? It was Killin who told him that the totem sacred beast White Tiger was still alive on Xianshan and would protect him. Otherwise, Tang Mao would never choose to go to Xianshan. P.S. Please give me a monthly ticket and reward. Chapter 47 Xianshan. After explaining everything, Tang Mao returned to their small village. After abducting the black snake, he went to the airport of a nearby city. In fact, he was still quite hesitant about the trip to Xianshan, especially because he had to go deep into the mountains. After all, it was a real forbidden place for humans. Either the people who went and never came out again, or the people who came out suddenly decades ago. The people who came out didn't remember anything that happened there, and those who didn't come out had no chance to tell it. It was mysterious and terrifying, with countless folk legends, and there were also many legendary figures who obtained huge treasures and transformed from it. However, no matter whether it was the warriors who buried their bones silently in the snow marks, or the legendary figures who were famous, no one would be willing to mention anything that happened in Xianshan. But in the same way, the dangers and rewards were the same. Such an ancient place was called a holy mountain by the locals. I'm afraid that it was not only the totem sacred beast White Tiger, but other totems should have survived. However, whether these totems could still obey the dispatch of the unicorn on their bodies was an unknown number. Pan Town, located at the southern foot of Xianshan Mountain, is very different from some other special post stations, because its appearance is indeed as mentioned before, because the relatives of those missing people in Xianshan Mountain are looking forward to their return and spontaneously build wooden houses in a river belt at the foot of Xianshan Mountain, gradually forming villages and towns. Later, those who wanted to go to Xianshan Mountain also went to Pan Town in order to seek supplies and convenience to settle down, and developed it into a starting point for the south of Xianshan Mountain. Hunters, explorers, mercenaries, students, and practitioners have crowded this town one after another. There are not many local people in Xinjiang, most of them are outsiders. After Tang Mao arrived, he followed the guidance given by Qilin Yu and headed towards Xianshan Mountain. Although it is dangerous here, it is better in the periphery. At least there are no demons of the commander level everywhere. And after a few days of travel, because of the black snake, Tang Mao did not encounter any demons of the command level blocking the way. The obstacles of the general level demons encountered several times in the periphery were also easily resolved by him. After all, the general level demons now can't withstand his thunder bombardment. Coupled with the pressure of the black snake, how dare the low level demons get close? But when they arrived at the center of Xianshan, they could only follow the black snake to the depths. After all, this place has been a dangerous area since the beginning. Although it seems calm on the surface, Tang Mao knows that the real danger is hidden. On the fifth day of entering Xianshan, Tang Mao, led by the black snake, provoked the Xianshan Shadow Leopard clan. Fortunately, with Tang Mao's instructions, the black snake did not fight, and after killing a few, it left the opponent's territory. That's why it was not chased and killed. Bringing the black snake here does have advantages and disadvantages. The breath of the black snake monarch will always cause some trouble after being felt by some tribes here. Although Tang Mao can get a lot of residual souls, or even essences after a battle. But he is not here to fight after all, and he doesn't want the black snake to consume too much. Otherwise, after returning, it will have enough energy to shock the Sky Demon Eagle clan outside Hangzhou. When encountering some creatures of the servant level, Tangmao chose to take action himself. One person and one snake walked in Xianshan for 10 days, but still did not reach the end of the guide. Fortunately, Tangmao practiced ice, and with his own domain power, the natural damage was not great. After another day of traveling, Tangmao and the black snake found a cave to stay. Hiss, in the middle of the night, the black snake suddenly called out and woke up Tangmao, who was practicing in the dark. "What's wrong?" Hiss. Listening to the black snake's narration, Tangmao was stunned. Then he said, "Are you kidding?" Hiss. The black snake told Tangmao that outside the cave, a white tiger with a monarch level strength similar to it arrived. Tangmao stood up directly, but the black snake told him that the other party had no ill intentions. It seemed that they were taking them to see the totem sacred beast white tiger. After learning about the situation, Tangmao followed the black snake out. The white tiger in front of him was amber white, with a clear texture. But it was not smooth. It had thick and handsome hair from the neck to the tail. Its ears were very sharp, looking like leaf-shaped horns, and there were quite domineering double moon tiger stripes on its forehead. The most unusual thing about this white tiger was its eyebrows. Its eyebrows were frost white, but they were as long as thick beards. The eyebrows and beards hung down with an arc beside the wild tiger cheeks, showing the breath of a king. The mini snake spit out its snake tongue on Tangmao's shoulder as if to communicate. The white tiger also symbolically roared a few times. After the snake and the tiger communicated for a while, the black snake looked at Tangmao. It spit out its snake tongue and told him that the other party was a subordinate of the holy beast white tiger and came here to welcome them. Tangmao did not question it and came directly to the white tiger of Xianhan. Immediately, the white tiger began to move towards the place indicated by the killing jade. The Xianhan white tiger has lived here for many years and knows how to avoid other tribes. It did not cause a war. When the sky got brighter, Tangmao found that the place indicated by the killing jade seemed to be getting closer and closer. Damn. With such a smart subordinate, why didn't you send him out earlier? Tangmao complained in his heart with dissatisfaction. You know, they have been in a tragedy these days. Fortunately, he brought his brains and brought the black snake to Xianshan. Otherwise, I'm afraid he would die before he got here. When the sun rose, the white tiger took Tangmao to the top of a mountain. After arriving here, the white tiger stopped, looked at Tangmao behind him, and roared a few times, and then retreated. The black snake once again acted as an interpreter, spitting out snake letters to tell Tangmao that this was the location of the white tiger. Tangmao looked at the empty surroundings, and looked at the Xianhan white tiger behind him with some confusion. However, the Skymark white tiger had no intention of paying attention. Instead, the Kirin jade in its body suddenly trembled. After feeling its beating, Tangmao called it out. At the same time as the Kirin jade appeared, a huge white tiger shadow emerged. The size of this white tiger at this time was obviously not its original size, and its appearance was not much different from these white tigers, but the only difference was that it had a pair of flawless white wings, which seemed to be full of oppression. Even though it had been deliberately concealed, Tangmao still felt the pressure, and when its shadow emerged, the black snake and the Skymark white tiger lowered their heads at the same time, as if they were kneeling. P.S. If I want to get a serious recommendation, I would like to ask all the friends who like this book to vote for the monthly ticket. If possible, please give me a reward. Please please. Chapter 48, The Ice Element's Darling. However, the black snake's kowtow was only for a moment, and then it turned into a mini snake and coiled on Tangmao's shoulder. In Tangmao's opinion, it might be because it was not the younger brother of the white tiger. Hiss. After it coiled on Tangmao's shoulder, it spit out its snake letter to tell Tangmao the totem sacred beast white tiger's body has been destroyed, or it has fallen. And now what appeared in front of Tangmao was just its white tiger soul that merged with the top of Xianshan mountain. The reason why its soul merged here was nothing more than wanting to pass on the power of the white tiger. And for so many years, the only one who met the requirements was just a little one who was absorbing power at this time. Tangmao had some guesses. It should be the timid little white tiger. Since humans took action against the totem, the fierce beasts joined some totem beasts that were dissatisfied with humans to besiege Killin, and the 4 sacred beasts also suffered heavy losses. In the end, they went their separate ways under the extermination of some humans. Of course, not all totems have to die, otherwise, there would not be totems protecting humans until now. If someone wants to destroy them, there will naturally be someone to help them. And these people have become totem guardians. The white tiger didn't know what the other sacred beasts were like, but after getting some help from humans, it came to Xianshan. However, because it had consumed its physical strength in the battle, to resist the humans who attacked them, and was besieged by the fierce beasts, its strength was only 1/10 of what it had when it came here. In the end, it could only choose to transform its flesh into a layer of protection, to protect its offspring here. Some totem beasts that belonged to the white tiger clan dispersed. Some were still willing to contact humans, but more of them no longer believed in humans. Most of them created their own tribes or hid themselves. After listening to the snake, Tang Mao looked at the Killin Jade in his hand with an unhappy face. The Killin Jade also responded accordingly, and a ray of light shone on the illusory shadow of the sacred beast white tiger. Roar. The moment the sacred beast white tiger was irradiated again, it roared a few times. The sound was deafening. You are so asterisk. Tang Mao covered his ears and said a few civilized words. Fortunately, the roar did not last too long. Otherwise, with Tang Mao's current strength, it is not impossible to be shocked to death. The reason why the sacred beast white tiger roared so much was because he was excited to see Killin. After all, in its memory, Killin was already dead, and Killin only sensed its weak soul power and brought Tang Mao here. Unfortunately, Tang Mao didn't know these. The white tiger seemed to be communicating with Killin. As for what the 2 gods were talking about, Tang Mao didn't understand it at all. Similarly, the black snake had no intention of translating. After all, one of the 2 sacred beasts turned into jade, and the other was left with only an illusory soul. The communication was completely heartfelt. After a while, the Killin Jade disappeared in Tang Mao's hand, and the white tiger roared a few more times. Let the black snake translate to Tang Mao. I have to say that tool snakes are easy to use. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The black snake spat out its snake letter to tell Tang Mao. The little white tiger is now in deep sleep, and waking it up now is not a good thing for it. Moreover, if Tang Mao's current strength is contracted to it, even if it is very strong, its strength will be directly restricted. Moreover, even the current little white tiger is already a monarch. The huge power is likely to bring a huge impact to Tang Mao. After listening to the black snake's translation, Tang Mao summed up some useful things. That is, he is too weak now. If he contracts the white tiger, he may bring down the other party, or even ruin himself. In short, this trip to Xianshan may be in vain. Raw looking at Tang Mao with a dejected face, the white tiger seemed to be conveying something again. The black snake still lived up to the name of a tool snake, and hissed on Tang Mao's shoulder, to convey what the sacred beast white tiger said. The white tiger told Tang Mao that, although the little white tiger could not be his contract pet, as long as the final test was completed, he would definitely let it go to find Tang Mao. And another thing is, that it has a better recommendation for Tang Mao's contract. Tang Mao, who was about to explode, turned back to look at the white tiger after hearing the translation of the black snake and said, "Are you telling the truth?" Raw Tang Mao naturally didn't understand the roar of the white tiger. He turned back to look at the tool snake. The black snake had to become the translator of the holy beast white tiger. Not far away lives a natural holy spirit of heaven and earth ice, named Ice Snow Girl. It was born from the extremely cold ice. It originally existed in the polar glacier, but for some reason it came to Xianshan 100 years ago, and it is now living on the top of another mountain. Moreover, exactly 10 years ago, a cold mutation occurred in the nearby area. If I'm not mistaken, there may be a new Ice Snow Girl born there. After listening to the explanation of the black snake, Tang Mao's eyes lit up instantly. In the original book, he also knew that the darling of the world of the fire element Yanji, and this Yanji is indeed nice. But he didn't expect that he risked his life to come to Xianshan, and he thought he would lose all his money, but he didn't expect to get the news of the so-called Ice Snow Girl. That is to say, there is no signal here. Otherwise, Tangmao would have wanted to take out his mobile phone to check. However, since the white tiger said that this kind of elemental pet is most suitable for Tangmao, then it must be suitable. Moreover, the elemental pets bred between heaven and earth are not weaker than totems. The most important thing is that they have the function of fusion. Immediately, Tangmao looked at the holy beast white tiger and wondered, where is this snow girl? How can I get her help? Roar. This time, the black snake did not wait for Tangmao to ask, and turned around and told Tangmao, since the ice snow girl gave birth to new life, the place where it is has been set up with an ice barrier. Until now, no one has stepped into it. Without waiting for Tangmao to utter civilized words, the white tiger roared, and the black snake continued to spit out its snake tongue to convey. At first, the powerful aura did prevent any creature from approaching. Maybe even the white tiger before death could force its way in. In other words, without the strength of a half-step emperor, no creature can rush in. However, in recent years, the aura inside has become much weaker. Even the old snow girl who gave birth to the ice and snow girl seems to have lost a lot of aura. According to its guess, it should only take a year at most, and the barrier set up by the ice and snow girl will be automatically lifted. P.S. Please give me rewards and monthly tickets. In addition, reading is also the most important thing. Chapter 49 Snow Girl. He originally thought that a few months would be enough, but he didn't expect that it would take a year. Moreover, the white tiger didn't look very sure. But how could Tangmao be willing to leave like this? How could he be willing to do that? After hesitating for a while, Tangmao looked at the tool snake on his shoulder and said, leave Xianshan now, and go back to Hangzhou. Wait 8 months later, come here to find me again. If Tang Yu wants to find me, tell her that I'm practicing, but don't say that I'm in danger, understand? Although it would be troublesome to communicate if the tool snake left. However, he and Tang Yu said that they would be away for a few months. But if it takes a long time, there will always be someone to report the news. But there is no better choice besides the black snake. As for whether to let the black snake come back in a year, Tangmao is not sure whether the ice and snow girl will come out earlier. After all, the white tiger said that the other party's breath is getting weaker and weaker. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Although the black snake was complaining, it seemed to be more worried about Tangmao's safety. Tangmao glanced at the sacred beast white tiger behind him, and then looked at it and said, White tiger, are there any totem beasts living nearby? He is a man who has the master of the totem, although the current Killin is just a broken jade. But the pressure still exists. Otherwise, how could the black snake become his tool snake? Therefore, if the black snake leaves and finds a bodyguard and the white tiger in front of him, the safety problem should not be big. After all, this is not the territory of the demon country. With the protection of 2 monarchs, as long as he doesn't commit suicide, he will not be in any danger. Moreover, the pressure of the sacred beast white tiger makes some demons living in Xianshan dare not approach here. Roar. The white tiger heard Tangmao's question, was silent for a moment, and then responded a few times. Tangmao naturally didn't understand. After all, being able to understand snake language is something he has slowly understood after years of contact. The black snake looked at Tangmao and continued to convey with a hiss. Since the white tiger came to Xianshan, many totem beasts have also come to Xianshan. Now, the only ones who survived, that is, the white tiger can still detect the breath, are Qinyuan, Jiuaishen, and Jiaying. As if understanding Tangmao's intention, the white tiger roared a few more times. The black snake continued to spit out snakes and said, these totem sacred beasts have no good feelings towards humans, especially Qinyuan and Jiaying, who even have their own demon tribes. Among them, Jiaying has a deep connection with the extreme cold ancient eagle clan. Upon hearing this, Tangmao felt that it was difficult to deal with. Totem beasts are to blame for this? They don't exist? To blame humans. Not all humans are targeting totem beasts. Moreover, the initial provocation was just those who were tempted by the desire for power. Don't talk about the past. Even now, in this world, aren't all the top powers still fighting to protect their rights? Originally, he was thinking of taking a few totems as his subordinates with the Killin Jade Tiger's body. Now it seems that not all totems are like the black snake. The main reason for paying the bill is that the 4 sacred beasts that originally controlled the totems have all fallen, and some totem sacred beasts that are not weaker than the 4 sacred beasts are naturally changing slowly. Hiss. The black snake spit out its snake letter and asked Tang Mao, do you still want it to go back? If there is only one Shining White Tiger here now, it's okay not to leave this area. If you leave here, there will be little security. The most important thing is that no one knows when the Snow Girl's barrier will disappear. If the black snake is not there at that time, Tang Mao and a Shining White Tiger will go there. I'm afraid they will get nothing. After all, the territory there is very good for some monarchs. When the Ice and Snow Girl was powerful, no demons dared to compete for the territory. However, its breath is getting weaker and weaker, and the newly conceived life is at most a cub. In this case, it may not be able to hold on. By then, the new Snow Girl will probably be nothing more than a pile of excrement. Although it is a headache, Tang Mao still insisted on letting the black snake go back for a while. There are many superclass mages guarding Hangzhou, but the majority of Sky Demon Eagles are never afraid of those superclass mages. The reason why they stay outside Hangzhou safely is that they are afraid of the totem black snake. A mouthful of poison gas bombs down, many Sky Demon Eagles will have to die. As for the humans in Hangzhou, if they want to fight in the air, they may not even be able to handle a flying Sky Eagle. After the black snake left, the white tiger roared a few times and then disappeared in front of him. Tang Mao was a little confused. What is this white tiger doing? What does roaring mean? Just when he was confused, the Shining White Tiger behind him suddenly bit Tang Mao's clothes and turned around and left here with him. Fuck you. Tang Mao felt like he was going to explode. What was going on? Why did the white tiger carry him there? The white tiger didn't give him a chance to ask questions, and naturally he didn't have a chance to respond. After leaving the top of the mountain, they arrived at an ice cave in the back mountain in a moment. After arriving here, the white tiger put Tang Mao down. Roar. Seeing the white tiger growling and signaling him, Tang Mao looked at the cave behind him in confusion, and then turned back and said, are you letting me in? At the beginning, he suspected that the sacred beast white tiger also had no good feelings towards humans, and wanted to kill him. However, after coming here, and the speed of the ice attribute element in his body skyrocketing, Tang Mao finally understood. The white tiger should have noticed his powerful ice attribute element, so it gave him a suitable place to practice. However, Tang Mao suddenly thought of a very serious thing. That is, the dry food he brought here was not enough. Even now, there are only 3 days of food left. After thinking about it, Tang Mao could only look at the Shining White Tiger and said, hey, big tiger, I don't have much food left. Can you give me something to eat? The leader level demon has a very smart mind. Although this Shining White Tiger is not as strong as the black snake, its strength is also at the level of a medium monarch. It can naturally understand what Tang Mao said. Roar, roar, roar. The white tiger roared a few more times and then turned and left here. Looking at it, it seems that it really went to find food for Tang Mao. Tang Mao entered the ice cave chosen by the white tiger. The moment he entered, he felt that the ice magic nebula in his body began to surge. Although the speed is not as fast as that of the 3-step tower, it is several times faster than the usual improvement. In this year or less than a year, he may be able to try to impact the 3rd level of the intermediate ice system. Chapter 50 The Terrifying Force of Nature. Thanks, Archer Bookworm for 600 book coins. Thanks to Lin Yue, Wanshu Traveler, and Little Lali. Tang Mao started to sprint for the 3rd level of the intermediate ice system. Half a day later, Shining White Tiger, who went out to forage, came back with a wild boar. I don't know what kind of species it is, but the level should have reached the commander level. However, after seeing Tang Mao practicing, he put down the huge wild boar, and Shining White Tiger lay outside the cave and began to rest quietly. After a long time, when Tang Mao was about to vomit from the meditation, he got up and walked out of the ice cave. At this time, more than 5 hours had passed. With only 1 day of meditation, he naturally did not get any rapid growth. However, it was several times faster than usual. After leaving the cave, a huge wild boar appeared in front of him. Judging from its size, it must be a commander level. However, he is not an animal, so he must not be eaten raw. Immediately, he activated the ice magic power, and a huge ice house floated out. Then Tangmao took out a lighter, but it was embarrassing. He did everything, and found that this was the top of Xianshan Mountain. Because of the cold, the ground was covered with snow, and there was no firewood nearby. That means that, if he wants to eat cooked food, it is almost impossible. The noise Tangmao made naturally woke up Xianshan White Tiger. Raw Xianshan White Tiger roared a few times, and looked at Tangmao in confusion. It seemed to ask him, "Why don't you eat? Aren't you hungry?" Tangmao said helplessly, "Tiger, I was born a human, and can't eat this stuff." Raw the White Tiger roared a few more times, and it was unknown what it was saying. Tangmao felt a pain in his balls. Although he had reached the monarch level, and it was not troublesome to communicate, he could hardly understand what the other party was saying for a day or two. Just when he was confused, he suddenly thought of his dimensional contract beast. Immediately, the stars connected, and the dimensional door opened. And then, the tiger-headed Xiaobei poked his head out carefully. It seemed that, because of the fear of being cheated before, its caution made Tangmao's mouth twitch slightly. "You don't trust Dad." Xiaobei heard this and hurried out. Just when he was about to lick it, he turned his head and saw the existence of Xianshan White Tiger. The moment he saw Xianshan White Tiger, Xiaobei felt bad. It was also white, but whether it was blood or strength, it was obviously not as good as others. It looked at Xianshan White Tiger with a timid face, and then looked at Tangmao helplessly. It seemed to be asking, "Dad, you are now looking for a monarch level?" Seeing Xiaobei's arrogant look, Tangmao kicked it helplessly, and then said, "Ask the big tiger what it said just now." Xiaobei heard this, turned his head weakly, and roared a few times. Tangmao looked contemptuous. "I remember that, when he recruited this guy in Bo City, he was so arrogant. Whether it was the bone spur wolf or the blood pattern rat, it looked like it didn't take it seriously. So when he saw his own kind, he was scared in an instant." Roar, roar, roar. Xianshan White Tiger also roared a few times in response. Obviously, knowing that this is Tangmao's summoned beast, the other party has no intention of scaring it. Of course, there is no need to scare it. After all, Xiaobei is still trembling now. After Xianshan White Tiger responded, Xiaobei looked at Tangmao and roared a few times. Translating, Big White Tiger said that there are only demons in Xianshan, and there is no human food. Even if it is Xianshan Holy Lotus, it will have to wait until the heavy snow comes, and it will grow again at the end of the snow. Of course, there are some Xianshan Holy Lotus, but there are some places that he can't go to. After all, the Holy Lotus that has existed for a long time is a dangerous place. It's not that Tangmao can't eat this, but he can't eat it raw. So he said, "Xiaobei, tell Dabe to let it find more dry firewood. I won't starve to death." More. Roar, roar. Although Xiaobei knew that Xianshan White Tiger had no ill intentions, he was still a coward and weakly translated what Tangmao said. In fact, there was no need for Xiaobei to translate. Xianshan White Tiger turned around and left after listening to Tangmao. Xiaobei collapsed on the ground after seeing Xianshan White Tiger leave. Tangmao shrugged and called him back. Speaking of which, since botching, this guy has not been used for anything except transportation. I didn't expect that Xiaobei would play a vital role at the critical moment. After all, translation is also a technical job. Xianshan White Tiger left for an afternoon. When he came back, his body became extremely huge. I don't know where he got it. Trees like pine trees came out of his mouth. Tangmao didn't care what kind of tree it was. As long as he could burn and grill meat, he didn't worry about starving to death. At night, Tangmao grilled meat and drank strong liquor. It was comfortable. The speed of practicing ice here is simply a natural welfare place. If there were Tangyu or AI22 to accompany him and hold him to keep warm, Tangmao felt that he could live here for a long time. In a blink of an eye, 2 months passed slowly. Fortunately, he had prepared winter equipment when he came, and he had powerful ice magic, so he didn't have to worry about freezing to death. It was also during these few days that snowflakes began to fall from the sky. This was an early warning of the closure of Xianshan Mountain, and during this period, Xianhan White Tiger also prepared food reserves for the winter. Even the trees that Tang Mao needed were prepared in large quantities. The heavy snow in Xianshan Mountain, unless there are some holy spirits that Xianshan likes to favor, otherwise there will be no survival under the forbidden spell. Some people who are looking for treasures here have fled to the outside of Xianshan Mountain as soon as they found the falling snow. After all, there has been a saying in Xianshan Mountain since ancient times that snow comes and people leave. And the places on the top of Xianshan Mountain are the sacred places of favor, so Tang Mao doesn't have to worry about being cold here. But in the next few days, Tang Mao realized how naive he was. The arrival of the blizzard was like a death warrant. Whether it is human or demon, in front of this powerful natural force, they are extremely insignificant. In the first few days, he could still practice here, but in the following days, he couldn't practice at all. Even with the power of the domain, he could barely resist the ravages of the blizzard. The Xianshan White Tiger seemed to have noticed that Tang Mao couldn't resist it, and then took him to the place where the White Tiger was, enduring the baptism of the wind and snow. It was only a few steps away from the Xianshan White Tiger, but it gave Tang Mao a feeling of having spent a day. The place where the White Tiger was not so strong. However, the air here was abnormally thin. Although he couldn't die, he could do almost nothing, except staying in the thick fur of the Xianshan White Tiger to keep warm. Tang Mao kept cursing Killing dozens of times in his heart every day. After all, if it weren't for it, how could he, a mid-level mage, have the courage to come here? Question mark? PS. Please give me a monthly ticket and reward. Exclamation mark. Can I vote? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.